Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching second and final part of What If Naruto was born in Earthland and was raised by Goddess. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no time. Let's start the story.
Her hands and forearms undergo noticeable changes, with metal gauntlets covering the back portion of her altered arms and each developing a fin-like protrusion on the outside. She also develops big, leathery, bat-like wings and a large, stocky tail that appears to be made of metal plates or scales and gets smaller and smaller toward the end. Her nickname, the Demon, comes from this form. After completing her transformation, she decides it's time to intervene. After witnessing Elfman being knocked out by the beast after taking a breath, she swiftly gets close to the monster and punches it in the face, causing the beast to fly back into the mountainside. This stuns the creature, but it quickly gets up and rushes the demonic woman, throwing a broad punch at her that she easily avoids because of her increased speed and smaller size. Before she can take advantage of this, the beast backhands her and sends her hurtling through the air. She breaks through its guard and kicks it in the chest before spinning in midair and landing an axe kick to its left leg, bringing it to one knee. Elfman seizes the chance to give the beast a few licks and rushes him, changing his arm as he goes and yelling, "Beast arm! Iron Bull! Tetsugyu!" to turn his arm into metal and boost his punching force. The monster is sent straight up into the air. After he delivers an uppercut to its chin, he pursues it and successfully lands a couple of strong blows to its abdomen, but the beast quickly bounces back and kicks the big teen, sending him flying through some trees and causing more cuts and bruises. Mira Jane returns with a vengeance, striking the beast's head twice with an axe handle so strong that it crashes face first into the ground. The monster is then subjected to a series of punches, kicks, and even a suplex, all of which have a minor impact, but nothing she does will stop it. She eventually grows weary of the monster and decides to use magic to put some distance between them. She brings her hands together and charges a ball of dark energy between them. When the beast gets back up and starts to charge Mira Jane, she finishes charging her attack, throws her hands forward, yells, "Demon Blast! Akuma Barasuto!" and shoots a huge dark purple beam of energy at the beast. The beast roars once more. It strikes the beast, sending it hurtling through trees and boulders and leaving a big gash in its chest. The monster's first actual wound of the battle. Mira swears when it wakes up from the attack, but she smirks when she sees the wound she was able to cause. The white-haired takeover mage quickly raises her hand, causing a black-purple magic seal to appear next to it as she intones, "Evil Push, Aku Pushu," which blasts the monster in the opposite direction. The beast roars in pain and rage before charging straight for her. The S-class mage chooses to finish it with a final blow since she is starting to feel a little depleted. "Elfman, I need you to distract the beast for a couple of minuets. I'm going to end this thing here and now," she exclaims as her brother, the only male Strauss sibling, looks up at his older sister, nods, and responds, "Okay Ne-san. But make it quick, I won't be able to hold him for long," as he dashes after the beast. Meanwhile, the demonic woman directs her magical power into the area between her hands, creating a dark, spherical vortex that starts to absorb all the surrounding energy. Elfman takes a lot of licks while fighting the beast, concentrating his blows on the open wounds caused by his sister's attacks. "Mirane, I can't hold it back any longer. Whatever you're going to do it now," he yells as he starts to lose control again after about 2 minutes. "Elfman, get clear. This next one is going to be deadly," Mira yells as she completes charging her attack, which is now a large black globe between her hands. The man complies and rushes to the area behind his sister with a devilish smile. The woman taunts the beast, saying, "Suck on this, you monster," before yelling, "Soul extinction. Soru Zetsumetsu." The globe then shoots a massive black-purple beam that explodes devastatingly. The beast can be seen down and out, still smoking and emitting dark energy. After the explosion, smoke has cleared. Mira Jane lands on the ground and returns to her normal form, breathing heavily because the last attack had taken a lot of her energy. In the meantime, Elfman approaches the creature to make sure it's finished, and the beast doesn't even flinch when he touches it. "Come on Elfman Ododo, let's head back and let the village, and let Lysana know that our job is done here." Mira wipes her brow at this point and turns to face the village before she starts to leave. Elfman, however, stays put and thinks to himself, this thing was strong enough to give Mirane a hard time. Its power may come in handy for the guild down the road, so I should take it over and add it to my beasts. I know that in the past I haven't been able to do full body takeover, but I'm sure I can. I'm the man of the family and I can't continue to be weaker than my sisters. Having made up his mind, he calls forth his magical abilities. Feeling her brother's magical power, Mira turns around and sees what he's doing. Seeing the seal beneath him and the beast, she knows what he's trying to do and yells, "No Elfman, don't." But it's too late. The beast's body vanishes. Elfman's whole form is covered in yellow light, and a moment later, The beast is standing where the man had been after taking a step back. Mira asks, Elfman Ototo? Is it you? Are you in control? After swallowing some spit? I did it, Mira nay. I finally managed a full-body takeover. The S-class mage exclaims with relief, shakes her head, and responds, you idiot, you scared me half to death. Now go back to normal and let's get out of here. After that, she turns around to resume walking when she hears her brother grunt in exertion. She turns around to see him gripping his head and his eyes changing between red and blue, realizing that the beast must not be totally subdued and is now fighting for control. When the monster finally prevails, it attacks Mira Jane right away and lets out a loud R-O-A-R-R-R-R-R-R. While using a new body and new magical power, she is sent flying far away, cracking her left arm in the process, but she is able to transform her arms into Satan's soul form to block. Seeing the white-haired mage as the greatest threat to its existence, Beast Elfman pursues her and, upon reaching her, completely transforms her back into Satan's soul, but instead of engaging in combat with the beast, she tries to persuade her brother to fight it inside, which leads to her suffering numerous injuries. After her magical power runs out, Mira eventually finds herself sitting on the ground, looking at the beast lumbering toward her with her left arm broken, scraped up, and bruised. Then things get worse when she hears, Mirane, and looks up to see her younger sister flying directly at her. The girl asks, what happened, Mirane? Why are you so injured? Where is Elfni? As she examines her sister after landing. The younger white-haired girl is shocked by this, but she gets up and says, nonsense, Mirane. Elfni-chan is still in there, and I know that if we just remind him who we are, then he'll snap out of it. Mira then starts to panic and responds, Lysana, you have to get out of here right now. Elfman, he tried a full-body takeover on the beast, and it failed. That monster is Elfman. Please, Lysana, you have to go before he kills you. She then turns and walks towards Beast Elfman, holding her arms out. She starts to say, Elfni, it's me, Lysana, your Imoto Elfni. I know you in there, and I know you can beat the monster, so come on, Elfni. Stop messing around, and we can go home together, you, me, and Mirane, just like always. The skies darken and lightning flashes as she and the beast get closer, but no one notices that it's blackish yellow in hue. She smiles at Beast Elfman, who lifts his right arm and swings it down with the intention of slapping the girl away. He hits the air, though, as the girl disappears in a flash of blackish yellow lightning before his hand can touch her body. Looks like I made it just in time. You're lucky Tucson called me Lysana. Otherwise you could have been killed just now. Mira starts to look behind herself, but she hears a deep baritone voice she recognizes from behind her. Lysana looks up from the arms holding her, and they both see Naruto Udrayar's whiskered face. The fact that her sister is okay and that Naruto saved her life makes Mira extremely happy. The blonde puts her down, holds her chin lightly, and looks up at him before responding, don't be so sad, Lysana-chan. You have to understand your brother is not himself right now. If he were, we both know he would never hurt you, so buck up. You're welcome. Lysana, on the other hand, is relieved and a little sad, saying, Naruto Nissan, thank you for saving me, but Elf Nissan, he was really about to hurt me. After giving him a grateful smile, the 15-year-old moves past Mira and in the direction of Beast Elfman. Mira-chan, I'll handle things from here. Elfman has been naughty, losing control to the beast and allowing it to use his body to harm his beautiful sisters. Some punishment is in order, I think, but don't worry, I won't hurt him too bad. After all, he's my comrade, he says as he passes the other S-class mage. He then turns to smile warmly and confidently at her, making her blush and feel secure. The monstrous Elfman is hurried by the blonde god slayer, who uses only speed to get close to him in a matter of seconds. The beast, in the meantime, lifts its fist and, as soon as the blonde is within striking distance, drops it on him in an attempt to crush him. It is taken aback when the man merely catches the fist with one hand while remaining motionless. Naruto disagrees with this. Is that the best you got? I know you can hear me in there, Elfman. If you allowed yourself to lose control to a monster this weak, then you have a long way to go before you can call yourself a man. Beast Elfman falls to his knees as the S-class mage throws his arm back, gets in his guard, and strikes his stomach, causing it to cave in around his fist. With some effort and a loud grunt, he lifts Beast Elfman off the ground and slams him back first into the ground, causing a crater. He takes his hand off Beast Elfman's stomach and grabs its horns. The blonde god slayer grabs a cluster of nerves in Beast Elfman's neck and sparks yellow lightning, electrocuting the beast and making it roar in agony before blacking out. Despite the pain, Beast Elfman is still prepared to fight. It returns to Elfman as soon as Naruto cuts the current, indicating that the man is unconscious and fairly badly injured, but nothing that cannot be healed. Damn, Elfman, what have you been eating, man? Whatever it is you need to cut back, you're getting heavy. The blonde huffs as he bends down and throws the bigger teen over his shoulder. He then walks back over to the Strauss sisters, grinning at them both. All right ladies, let's head down to the village. Mira-chan, you and Elfman can get patched up by the village doctor. And when this big oaf wakes up we'll head back to the guild and let Tu-san know what happened. The two white-haired girls nod their heads at him, and the group starts to walk back to the village after he holds out his hand to help Mira stand up. Lisana and Naruto talk the whole way there, with the blonde telling the youngest Strauss about his most recent S-class job. Mira, on the other hand, remains silent as she reflects on how things went horribly wrong and how her brother almost lost his soul to a monster because she failed to recognize how upset he was about his inability to perform a full-body takeover. She starts to wonder how she ever made S-class after thinking about how their possessed brother almost killed her sister and how helpless she was to stop it. When they arrive in the village, the local doctor takes care of Mira and Elfman. He confirms that the woman's arm is broken and places a cast on it. He also treats the other injuries of the two, including Elfman's right eye, which will have a scar across it after informing the mayor that the beast has died. Naruto receives payment for the mission and 2 rooms at the inn for the night. The 2 girls share 1 room with the male Strauss. Later that evening, Lisana is soundly sleeping in their room while Mira is sitting on the inn's roof and gazing up at the moon with melancholy. She is so absorbed in her thoughts that she fails to notice her favorite blonde sitting next to her, dressed only in black pajama bottoms adorned with lightning bolts. It isn't until he speaks that she realizes you know, that look doesn't really suit you, Mira-chan. I like the confident, no nonsense, self-proclaimed strongest woman in fairy tale. Mira-jane, better you want to tell me what's wrong and why that sad look is on that gorgeous face of yours. It's all my fault, Naruto. I was so conceited that I thought we'd go in, I'd kill the beast with ease, and that would be the end of it. I never thought anything could go wrong. I never imagined my little brother trying to take over the monster because of his drive to prove he's as strong as Lisana. And I saw the white-haired woman sighs sadly, not even responding to his comment about her appearance as she usually would. What the hell was I thinking? I don't deserve to be S-class when I can't even protect myself, let alone my siblings. She ends by sobbing. I should have stopped him, but instead I stood there like an idiot and let him do a full-body takeover. And I paid for it. I couldn't hurt the beast because I was afraid of hurting my little brother and ended up getting hurt. And to make matters worse, I almost lost my baby sister at the hands of said brother. Surprised, though, she stops crying for a moment as the blonde gives her a hug and starts patting her head. The blonde continues, "It's okay, Mira-chan, we all make mistakes. That's what makes us human. So you were a little conceited. So what? Every S-class mage has a little conceit, including me, but none of what happened was your fault. Elfman's attempt to take over the beat, his failure, and his near killing of Lisana, well, that's his fault and his alone, and I'll be having a man-to-man conversation with him about it later." His words struck the girl squarely in the heart, and instead of answering, she buried her head in his bare chest and started crying even more. Mira-chan, don't ever blame yourself for forces outside your control, because no one can control those, not even the gods. If you're upset about how you handled things, then change, become a better sister, and become a greater mage. Learn from your mistakes. That's all you can do as a person. After a while, Mira-jane sobs herself to sleep in the blonde's arms. When he looks down, he notices a small smile on her sleeping face and smiles too in her hotel room. The blonde puts the young lady in her bed before going back to his own and falling asleep. He gets up early the following morning, takes a shower, and gets dressed. When he exits the restroom, he discovers Elfman sitting upright in his bed, looking at him with dismay and embarrassment. The blonde takes a chair and places it beside the bed, then he sits down, crosses his arms, and says to the younger mage, "We need to have a serious discussion, Elfman. What you did last night was stupid, egotistical, and dangerous. You could have killed your sisters." The younger teen looks down in embarrassment and rage, clenching the sheets in his hands, and responds, "I know, but you don't understand, Naruto Aniki. You can't possibly know how it feels to watch as your sisters can do full-body takeovers from the very beginning, and yet can't even after training to for years. You have no idea how that makes you feel as a man, to feel so weak." Crack. He turns his head and slides slightly to the left on his bed as a fist suddenly implants itself in his cheek. Naruto is standing over him with his fist outstretched and an angry expression on his face. He looks down on Elfman prior to hitting him. "You moron. Listen to yourself. Whining like a child just because you can't do a full-body takeover like your sisters. So what? You let your pride blind you to what is really important, family. Because of that pride your sisters nearly died by your hands. That's not the way a man acts, it's the way a child acts. You aren't a man." The larger teen keeps his head down and starts to cry from the one unbandaged eye. Sighs Naruto. "But you have the chance to make amends, Elfman. All you have to do is beg your sisters for their forgiveness, and I'm sure they'll give it because they both love you. Also, if it's that important to you to be able to do a full body takeover, then I'll train with you and help you accomplish that goal, because after all, that's what comrades are for. At that moment, Naruto answers the knock on the door, and the Strauss girls are standing there. After beckoning them inside, he makes the decision to go and give the family some space as the 4 fairy tale mages depart. The 3 siblings leave the room prepared to return to the guild. After a lengthy exchange of words, tears, and apologies, they discover Naruto waiting by the door, leaning against the wall. Magnolia Town Guild of Fairy Tales, March 16, X 782. The blonde man is disappointed in Elfman for his stupid choice when the 4 fairy tale mages return to the guild that afternoon and tell Minato what transpired. However, Naruto tells him that he already covered it before he can chastise the 16-year-old. He then lets it go and says that he's glad they all came back alive and banged up instead of dead. When he decides to retire himself, he tells his son that he might become the 5th master of the guild if he continues to handle the situation so brilliantly. The younger blonde simply laughs at this and tells him that day is far off because Minato is still relatively young at 43. The next 3 weeks are off for all 4 mages, according to the 4th master. When Naruto makes the decision to go to his favorite restaurant, Mira pulls him aside so they can talk. He notices a nervousness on his fellow S-class mage's face that he has never seen before, so he decides to ask her what's going on. The 17-year-old girl takes a deep breath before doing something utterly unexpected. She presses her lips to his and starts kissing him passionately. "What's wrong, Mira-chan? You're shaking like a leaf with nervousness, so what's up? Is something wrong?" she asks. He is momentarily stunned by this, but he soon recovers and starts kissing her back while she puts her good arm around his neck and he puts his arms around her waist. They separate to regain their breath after sharing a kiss for 3 complete minutes. "What was that for?" Naruto asks, looking down at the woman in his arms after catching his breath. "Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was so unexpected, in a good way." But Mira puts her finger to his lips to silence him, then says, "Shut up, Naruto-kun, and listen. Everything that happened yesterday, with Elfman trying to take over the beast and nearly losing Lysana, made me realize that life is way too short to waste, so I wanted to let you know how I feel about you, how I've felt about you for 2 years now. I love you, Naruto-kun." As he attempts to comprehend what the white-haired woman just said, the blonde is taken aback by these remarks. He has been aware for a year that he has fallen in love with the takeover mage, but he wasn't certain until recently that she felt the same way about him. For this reason, he chooses to express his feelings. "You love me, Mira-chan? If you've loved me for so long, why wait until now to tell me? Why not let me know 2 years ago when you developed these feelings for me?" "Yes, I love you, Naruto-kun. The reason I didn't say anything until now is that I didn't know if you would return my feelings, and the thought that you might reject me scared me to death. But now, I don't care if you reject me. I'll hurt for a while, but it's better to put myself out there and be rejected than to hold it inside and never know. I just wanted you to know how I felt before it was too late. So what do you have to say, Naruto-kun?" Naruto sees truth, love, fear, and hope. When he looks deeply into her eyes, he decides that actions speak louder than words, and, instead of answering her question with words, he grabs her by the waist once more and pulls her back in, causing her to squeak in surprise before he silences it with a second passionate kiss. After a brief moment of surprise, Mira answers him and starts kissing him back, which leads to them making out for 3 more minutes in a row. When they part ways once more, Naruto chuckles at her happy expression and smiles down at her before saying, "I love you to Mira-chan. I've loved you for the last year, but kept it in because I wasn't sure you felt the same. Now that I do, I only have one thing I want to ask you." The white-haired woman is shocked to learn that her longtime crush and secret love feel the same way about her, but she asks, "What's the, Naruto-kun?" The blonde takes a deep breath, clasps her hands, and then asks a question of his own. "Mira-Jane Strauss, would you do me the honor of being my girlfriend?" At this question, the white-haired mage actually squeals. Then, she leaps into the blonde man's arms and says, "Yes. Yes, I'll be your girlfriend, Naruto-kun," while kissing him all over his face. Mira nods as she takes his arm with her good one and they leave the guild for one of the restaurants in town. He laughs at this and gives her another quick kiss on the lips before putting her on her feet while still holding on to her and saying, "Awesome, well then how about we go and get something to eat, I'm paying." They finally got together, and they didn't even notice the other guild members grinning and applauding. Many things changed on that day. First and foremost, Myra's personality changed significantly. She became kinder and more loving, especially to her siblings and Naruto. She also reconciled with Urza, and the two became close friends. Her appearance also changed. She began wearing dresses and wore her hair down in the back but tied her bangs up in a small front ponytail. After her brother almost killed her, Lysana decided to quit working and became the head waitress and barmaid for the guild. Taking on a maternal role there, she also started dating Natsu, which initially upset Elfman but was later forgiven after speaking with his older sister's boyfriend. Elfman himself underwent a slight transformation, taking Naruto's advice to heart and pleading to use the word man. At the end of every sentence they even go so far as to tell girls that they're not being very manly, which greatly irritates them. He also chose to accept Naruto's offer to train, and as a result, he would become much stronger in the ensuing years, but he would never be able to perform a full-body takeover. For the next 2 years, everything in the guild would carry on as usual. The real upheaval in the guild wouldn't occur until July of X784, and it would begin with the addition of a new member. Magnolia Town, August 14, X784. A little more than 2 years have passed since the Beast vs. Job battle. 2 years since Naruto saved Lysana Strauss's life, brought Elfman Strauss back to reality, and started dating Mira Jane Strauss. Over the course of those 2 years, Naruto and Mira have become closer. Last year, after he moved out of the dorms and purchased a home in town, they moved in together, and most recently, 2 months ago, they became engaged. Mira Jane has semi-retired from active duty since the incident, only occasionally performing S-class tasks with Naruto or her closest friend Urza. Over the past 2 years, a lot has changed. In December of X782, the guild added Mistogen, an enigmatic S-class mage, to their ranks because he always covers his face with a scarf-like mask over the lower half of his face and a hat over the top half of his eyes. Mistogen is a mystery. The only people who have ever seen his face are Makarov, Minato, Kushina, Laxus, and Naruto. He also always puts everyone to sleep when he enters the guild to get a job. The past month has seen the biggest shift. At the start of the month, the guild welcomed Lucy, a gorgeous 17-year-old blonde celestial spirit. Seirei, mage. After meeting Natsu and Happy in Harjin Town, Lucy joined the guild. She and the pink-haired dragon slayer destroyed the port, and the boy also destroyed a significant portion of the town. She met a lot of the younger mages on her first day there, including Kana, Gray, Elfman, Loke, Lysana, and Mira. At the time, they were all involved in a large fight. She met the 4th master of Fairy Tail and got her pink Fairy Tail stamp on the back of her right hand. After meeting them all and having Minato break up the fighting on the second day, she accompanied Natsu on an unofficial mission to locate Mikao, another guild member. They located him after taking out a mountain Vulcan that had used takeover on him after he had dropped his defenses after defeating 19 of its fellows. They brought Mikao and his 6-year-old son Romeo back to Magnolia Town the following day. She finally got to meet Naruto for the first time. She thought the blonde god slayer was attractive, but if Mira was sitting in his lap at the time, it was clear that he was off limits. She formed a team with Natsu and Happy, met Naruto, and was instructed to call him Big Brother. Like all the other younger mages, she also earned a new Golden Gate key. Upon their return from that mission, they discovered that Naruto had gone out to perform one of their joint S-class jobs with Mira Jane. They didn't have much time to think about it, though, because Urza Scarlet Dreyare Euro, who had been formally adopted into the family when she reached S-class a Euro, returned to the guild that same day. She brought news of a plot involving the darkest of magics being orchestrated by Eisenwald, Eisenvaruto, a dark guild. Lysana jokingly dubbed the team she formed with Natsu, Gray, and Lucy Fairy Tail's strongest team. After learning that neither her father, Master, nor her Oni-sama were present, Urza and the others set out for Anabu's town to try to foil Eisenwald's scheme with Makarov's approval, who was in charge at the time because Minato and Kushina were at the annual guild masters meeting. With the exception of Natsu, who she knocked out and placed his head in her lap after he experienced his typical motion sickness from transportation, Urza told them everything. Urza blamed herself for leaving Natsu on the train when they arrived at their destination, claiming that her Oni-sama had always warned her to never forget a comrade after a train chase to retrieve Natsu. The boy was discovered in a wrecked railcar, and it was revealed that Eisenwald was traveling to Oshibana Town to play a flute known as Lullaby. It was Lucy who exposed Lullaby to them as the ultimate death magic, Shi no Maho, a demon from the Book of Zareth. They hurried to Oshibana Station, where they met Eisenwald and its wind mage Ace, Aragorn, the Shinigami. In order to broadcast Lullaby's song over the station's PA system, Aragorn then instructed his men to keep the Fairy Tail mages at bay. Urza and Lucy defeated the rest of Eisenwald quickly because Urza is S-class, but she had to rest after using a lot of magic power on the magical car they used to get there. Natsu and Gray pursued the wind mage. Both Natsu and Gray engaged in combat with another Eisenwald member. Natsu took on the shadow mage Kageyama, while Gray took on the black thread mage Raoul, both of whom prevailed. They later discovered that the annual guild masters meeting in Clover was Aragorn's real target, But they still faced a challenge when Aragorn trapped them in a wind barrier over the station, but Lucis' newest spirit, Virgo, found a way out of the station by digging a tunnel beneath it. Natsu then vanquished Aragorn before he could reach Clover, but Kageyama, whom they had brought with them, took the flute and proceeded to Clover Town. After speaking with Minato, Kageyama was unable to play the flute, and Lullaby became enraged that no one was playing it and transformed into a 200-foot-tall demon. After that, Urza and the others battled with it, making holes in it so that it would be unable to use its death magic. After that, they launched their most powerful attacks on it, destroying much of Clover Town along with the demonic flute. After this, they found Naruto and Mira back at the guild, and Urza gave her elder brother a big hug. The God Slayer scowled and chastised everyone, especially his younger sister, for not pushing it out of Clover before destroying it. After learning about the mission specifics and the damage caused, since Clover Town was essentially his hometown, his response was surprising but understandable. Following that, they had more adventures, the most notable of which was when they stole an S-class job while Naruto and Urza were away. Lucy, Natsu, and Happy were the only ones on Galuna Island, an island inhabited by demons. When Minato sent Gray after them to bring them back for punishment in the end, they brought him along for the job. As they met Leon Vastia, a former fellow student of and his group, they learned more about Gray's past. They faced Lion's team, which included the wave mage Yuka Suzuki, the dog-like poison mage Toby, the overly Leon-obsessed doll mage Sherry Blendy, and others. Urza arrived during the job with the intention of dragging them back to the guild for punishment after they had beaten each member individually, but she let them stay to complete the task. Gray discovered that Leon was attempting to resurrect Deliora, another demon from the Book of Zerapha Euro, the same demon that left Gray an orphan and initially prompted him to learn from using a spell called Iced Shell, Isudo Shiru, which is an ice spell that uses the caster's body and spirit to freeze someone or something. Basically, the user becomes the icy sealed away the same demon for which she gave her life. In an attempt to stop Leon, Gray engaged him in an ice make battle, which he ultimately won. Soon after, though, the ice surrounding the demon melted and it came back to life, but Natsu's single blow sent it crumbling to dust, demonstrating that ice had drained it of all its strength. They then got Lucy another Golden Gate key, destroyed the magic lens over the island that was causing the moon to appear purple, and departed. When they returned, they received harsh punishment and learned their lesson. Today, we find Fairy Tail's strongest team returning from another job. This one was small and only worth 7,000 jewels. Lucy was determined to complete it alone, but the others joined her. Urza's eyes widen as she asks, "What happened to our guild?" The others look in the same direction and are all shocked when they see the guild in the distance. They can hear everyone whispering that they are Fairy Tail mages and that they feel sorry for them. Large metal poles protrude from the guild in different places. Lucy asks, "Who would do something like this to the guild?" As they approach the guild and witness the extent of the damage. At that moment, they hear a quiet voice reply, "It was Phantom. Phantom attacked our guild." When they turn to see Lysana, Natsu gets upset and asks, "Phantom did this?" His girlfriend nods before guiding them down into the basement, where everyone is drinking and Minato is sitting on a crate with Kushina to his left and his son and Mira to his right. "Hello. I take it the mission went well?" The blonde master asks his mages. Grinning, Lucy nods and answers, "Yes master, but..." Minato shakes his head at this and then responds, "We will do no such thing, Natsu-kun. It's against the law to start a guild war and would result in major repercussions. Besides, it's not worth it. No one was harmed. They attacked when the guild was empty." Natsu approaches the wizard saint and says, "Pops, what are you doing just sitting around? Phantom attacked our guild. We have to retaliate." All of them are shocked by this, but Urza is relieved when Mira remarks, "They attacked after everyone had gone home for the night, so there were no injuries." Minato nods and continues, saying, "We will repair the damage, but in the meantime all jobs will be taken from down here." Natsu is upset about this and breaks something, saying, "Not gonna happen, Pops. They aren't getting away with attacking our guild." But Naruto quickly silences him with a punch to the head that drives his face into the ground. The younger, blonde man breathes a sigh of relief. Dragonslayer, "Enough. Natsu, you think Toussaint isn't mad about Phantom's cowardly attack? He's the maddest one out of all of us, but he's right. Fighting them over the defacement of an empty guild hall would be pointless and stupid, so do everyone a favor and cool your head before you end up getting us all in trouble, or else I'll have to really kick your ass." The blonde chooses to explain the circumstances to Lucy, who appears perplexed. "Phantom Lord is nearly as strong as we are. Their master Jose Porla is one of the 10 wizard saints, just like Toussaint and Ji-chan. Also they have a group of S-class mages called the Element 4, and on top of that is a man known as Black Steel, Gajeel Red Fox, the Iron Dragon Slayer, Tetsu Doragon Shiraya." This startles Lucy, who inquires, "There's another Dragon Slayer?" But I thought that Natsu was the only one? Naruto nods his head and replies, no, Natsu isn't the only dragon slayer in the world. Just as I'm not the only god slayer in the world, I don't know how many god slayers or dragon slayers there are, but there could be nearly as many as there are dragons and gods. Natsu gets to his feet, rubs his face, and nods to his older brother figure before approaching Lisanna and asking her to care for his hurt face later that evening. Everyone makes the decision to remain in groups just in case Urza, Gray, Happy, Natsu, and Lisanna spend the night with Lucy in her small apartment, and everyone except the white-haired girl goes through her belongings. Levi is also traveling through the streets that evening with her two teammates, Jet, who uses high-speed, High-Supido, a caster-type magic that enables one to move at incredibly high speeds, and Droy, who uses the holder-type plant magic, Paranto Magiku, which involves the use of seeds. Team Shadow Gear is the collective name for the three, but they are ambushed that night and aren't discovered until the following morning. Magnolia South Gate Park, August 15th, X784. Magnolia Town residents are gathered around one of the big trees in the park. They are looking at the battered remnants of Team Shadow Gear that are affixed to the trunk by substantial black metal fragments, and the emblem of Phantom Lord is painted on Levi's stomach. People start whispering as Urza, Natsu, Lucy, Lisanna, and Gray move through the crowd, the red-headed one saying, "Make room, we're from their guild." Their reactions vary depending on the condition of their friends. The pink-haired teenager clenches his fist and his face assumes a look of pure rage as he sees Phantom, Urza, Gray, and especially Natsu are furious, while Lucy and Lisanna are horrified as Minato and Naruto ascend to the tree, both wearing their furred coats, the master wearing his Wizard Saint medallion, and magic cascading off of them in waves. The whispers of the people start to grow louder. I can tolerate the destruction of my guild hall, I can tolerate attacks on myself, but what I cannot tolerate is my kids being harmed. The fourth master of Fairy Tail exclaims as the ground around him explodes due to his magical power. If Phantom wants a war, then that is what they will get, he continues. Before giving Jet and Droy to Natsu and Gray, respectively, and embracing Levi in a bridal fashion, Naruto approaches the tree and swiftly tears the metal restraints off the three mages. I promise you, Levi, I will make Gajeel pay for what he's done to you. I won't stop until he is nothing but melted slag, he says to the unconscious girl after glancing down at one of the girls he perceives as a younger sister. His eyes harden in rage. Rin and Sakura treat the three's wounds after they are taken to Magnolia Hospital while the rest of the guild travels to Oaktown, where Phantom Lord has a guild hall. Lucy remains at the hospital as she remembers how they became friends and how she promised the blue-haired girl that she would be the first to read the novel she, Lucy, is writing when it is finished. The blonde girl looks at the three with sadness, especially Levi. Oaktown. At the Phantom Lord Guild Hall in Oaktown, the mages of Phantom are celebrating the successful attack on Fairy Tail while drinking. Three of them are about to go out and attack some Fairy Tail members when the door explodes with the exception of the injured three, Lucy, Makarov, Lisanna, and Kushina. The smoke clears to reveal almost all of Fairy Tail, led by Minato and Naruto. Gajeel watches from a beam high in the air as the fourth master of Fairy Tail yells, "Fairy Tail is here! Attack!" as the Fairy Tail mages start attacking the Phantom mages. Gray intones, "Ice make! Lance! Isu Maiku! Ransu!" as he makes several lances of ice that eliminate a number of Phantom mages while Urza equips her Flame Empress armor and uses a flaming sword to take out a number of Phantom mages. Taking a breath, Natsu yells, "Fire Dragon's Roar! Karyu no Hoko!" as he unleashes a concentrated stream of fire from his mouth, destroying numerous Phantom mages and eliminating them from the battle. Elfman physically subdues a sizable contingent of mages by transforming his arm into a reptile. Obito uses his Sharingan to cast mages into illusions, while Kana uses her card magic to create a net of lightning that fries 10 mages, while Naruto and Minato use seal and wind magics to subdue and knock out various mages. Kakashi uses lightning magic to paralyze a sizable group of Phantom mages. As the Fairy Tail mages continue to battle the Phantom mages, one of the Phantom mages turns to one of his fellows and exclaims, "Those two blondes are monsters." Minato uses a lightning blast on that mage and his group while saying, "You harmed this monster's kids. You should have expected repercussions." As he ascends the stairs to the second floor, he confronts Jose by shouting to his son, "Naruto, I leave things down here to you." The younger blonde then responded, "You got it too, San. Go kick Jose's ass." Magnolia Town. Prior to the Phantom attack, Lucy is carrying groceries in her left arm as she strolls down the street toward her apartment. Even though the sun is still shining, it starts to rain as she makes her way down the path from the store, which confuses her nevertheless. She sees a woman coming toward her. The woman is very curvaceous, has dark blue eyes, long blue hair that is tightly curled at the base, and is dressed in a navy blue coat, a fur shawl with a turu bazoo attached, and a Russian Cossack hat. Lucy asks the woman approaching her, "Who are you?" The other woman answers, "Drip drip drop. Juvia is a rain woman. The rain is always with me. Drip drip drop." The blonde shakes her head and responds, "Okay, well, that's freaky." The blue-haired woman passes her, saying, "Have a nice day. Drip drip drop." But as she turns to leave, a man in a brown suit, a monocle, and strange-looking hair emerges from the ground and continues, "You know that this young woman is our Sibyl." The strange man smiles strangely and answers, "I am Saul of Earth, but you can call me Monsieur Saul." This young lady is a rain woman who goes by the name Juvia, also known as Juvia of the Great Sea. We are members of the element 4 inches. Lucy is terrified by this and assumes a defensive stance before remembering what Sibyl means. Sibyl means target. Who are you people? Lucy exclaims as she drops her groceries and reaches for her keys, saying, "You're with Phantom." Before she can attack, she is encased in an orb of water, shocking her as she struggles. As Lucy faints, Juvia says, "There is no point in struggling. Juvia's waterlock, Woda Raku, is unbreakable. Just relax, for we will not hurt you, Lady Lucy Heartfilia." Saul responds, "Victoire." But before they can celebrate their purported victory, the water prison is frozen and cut in half, dropping Lucy into the arms of one of two newcomers, Kashina Uzumaki Drayar. When Makarov Drayar appears, the two phantom mages are about to react when they are struck by a gigantic fist that sends them flying. Lysana is the third person Kashina turns to and hands the blonde to. "Take Lucy-chan back to the guild. Lysana-chan a Tucson, and I will take care of these two." The white-haired girl nods and turns into a big rabbit before hopping off with the blonde. When the two mages return, they see the current fairy tale master's wife and the former one, and they get ready to fight. However, Makarov's magic, which emanates from him in waves of golden light, brings them to their knees, and the elderly man looks down at them. He starts talking to them. "I had my suspicions that the attack on our guild, and our members wasn't random. Now I understand it was all a part of Jose's plan to get all of our mages out of the guild so that you could go after a specific one. I would never have imagined it was little Lucy. However, I will not allow you youngsters to take a member of Fairy Tale." The blue-haired girl nods in agreement as Saul turns to face Juvia and says, "Let us leave, Lady Juvia. We have none the strength to fight against La Titan of Fairy Tale, let alone Z, Queen of Blades. We shall report our mission a failure to Master Jose." The two then vanish into their respective elements after ceasing to radiate magic power. The elderly man turns to face Kashina and says, "Come Kashina-chan. Let's return to the guild and speak with Lucy about why she kept her true identity hidden." The redhead nods and follows the elderly man back to the guild. Oaktown. As the guild starts to tremble under the weight of Minato's magic power, Fairy Tale keeps kicking the phantom mages in the ass. "It's time for me to have a little fun," smirks Gajeel as he jumps off the beam he's on and extends his arm into a metal pole, striking not only Fairy Tale mages but also his fellows in Phantom Lord. But before he hits the ground, he witnesses a burst of black lightning and feels a fist pierce his face, which sends him hurtling through the air and into a wall. He wakes up and turns to see Naruto Drayar standing there, glimmering with black lightning. "Jahihihi, if it isn't Fairy Tale's Godslayer." "Naruto Drayar, you know, I've always wondered which is stronger, Godslayer magic or Dragonslayer magic." The blonde gives him a glare before disappearing in front of the other S-class mage's eyes. A moment later, the black-haired man narrowly avoids a black wind-encased foot that was headed for his stomach. When the blonde's kick causes a massive hole in the wall and sends out a cyclone of cutting winds that rip up the ground outside, his eyes and the eyes of all the other phantom mages widen. Naruto turns to the Iron Dragon Slayer and then responds, "You attacked my guild mates. More than that, you attacked my little brothers and sister. For that crime I'm going to teach you the true meaning of the word pain. You want to see which is stronger between Dragon Slayer and God Slayer magic? Well then, come and find out, asshole." After giving the older blonde a growl, Gajeel rushes him and starts fighting. A green magic seal materializes in front of Gajeel's fist as he tosses it forward. He then intones, "Iron Dragon's Club, Tetsuryukan," and transforms it into a steel beam before extending it once more. However, as a yellow magic seal with a black outline appears in front of him, Naruto smirks before cocking his fist back and encasing it in black lightning. He then throws his fist forward and exclaims, "Lightning God's Destruction Fist. Kaminari no Hakaiken," as a massive black lightning fist emerges from the seal and collides with the Iron Club. Naruto's attack succeeds, and Gajeel is sent flying up into a beam after being severely electrocuted by his iron conducting the lightning. Naruto pursues him, this time covering his foot in black ice, and utters, "Ice God's freezing kick." He places his foot firmly in the Dragon Slayer's stomach, cracking his ribs, causing him to spit up some blood and spit, and sending him crashing into the ground with a loud crash. Korakami no Toketsu Kiku. The door and wall to the Phantom Master's office are destroyed by Minato, who then enters the office with his magic flowing off him in waves of lightning as he approaches a tall, slender man sitting in a chair at the other end of the room. The man has a long, sharp face, vaguely pointed ears, prominent eyelashes, and dark lips. His long, straight, black hair reaches his shoulders, and he has a thin mustache. He is dressed in a flamboyant coat with a high collar, a jagged mantle, and jagged lower edges, with elaborately decorated inners and borders. The coat has two bat-like wings on the back, and a witch-like hat with the symbol of Phantom Lord on it. The hat's very long, bent top hangs down on the man's left. He wears a simple shirt with his Wizard Saint's medallion around the neck, two light ribbons hanging from it, loose striped culottes with long socks, pointed shoes with two furry balls on each foot €1, one on the front and one on the back €1, and two rings on the fingers of his left hand, one of which has a spherical gem. Jose Porla, the master of Phantom Lord, is this man. Minato gives him a furious look as he smiles and asks, "Well, isn't this surprising?" Minato Dreyar, who is normally composed, stormed into my office. "Minato, what am I owed this visit?" "You know why I'm here, Jose?" the blonde replies, gritting his teeth. "You have to pay for your daring attack on my children." He holds up his hand as a yellow magic circle appears in front of him, and he says, "Lightning wave. Kaminari Vevu." As Jose's chair and the wall behind it are destroyed by a massive wave of yellow lightning that bursts from the seal. Jose is still present and unharmed when the smoke clears, but his body briefly flickers, and Minato understands what's going on. Thought projection, Shinantai. The other man smiles and says, "This is merely a precaution. I'm trying to avoid a fight between two of the Wizard Saints." Minato scoffs at this, but he is unable to reply. "As I thought, you don't even have the courage to face me yourself, Jose." When the blonde Wizard Saint feels someone behind him, he turns to see a man who is slightly taller than him, much bigger than himself, brown-skinned, wearing a long coat, a top hat, and a blindfold over his eyes. A member of Element 4. Arya breaks down in tears and exclaims, "So sad. That your life must end here is very sad." As he launches an assault using airspace, Kuiki, his form of air magic, Kuki Maho. When Minato senses that his magic is being drained from him, he responds swiftly, saying, "Seal magic. Hiraishin." He turns to Jose and bows his head, saying, "I'm sorry, master, I was only able to suck away 3/4 of his magic before he vanished." Arya is shocked because no one has ever escaped his technique before. In response, the black-haired Phantom Master grins and says, "It's okay, Arya, you did enough. He will no longer be much of a threat to us because more than half of his power is gone, and the fairies will flee if he is defeated. In addition, you were more successful than Saul and Juvia before leaving." The big man nods and responds, "As you command, Master Jose. Go get Gajeel and come back to base." The fairy tale mages are kicking the Phantom Lord mages' asses back on the ground floor. Natsu, who is now fighting Gajeel Dragonslayer to Dragonslayer, interrupted Naruto's battle with Gajeel. Everyone pauses their activities when he appears next to Naruto in a flash of yellow, and Minato appears on one knee, breathing heavily, his skin tone very pale, almost green. Naruto turns to his father, puts his arm around his shoulder, and asks, "What's wrong, Toussaint?" "It was a trap. Jose isn't even here, he was a thought projection." Minato responds after swallowing and looking at his son with a pale face and beads of sweat. "One of the Element 4 got the drop on me while I was preoccupied with him, and he began draining my magic. However, I was able to escape with the Hiraishin after losing 3/4 of my power. I'm afraid I don't have the strength to fight any longer, son." Despite his frown, Naruto asks, "Toussaint, what do you want us to do?" "Sound the retreat," the older blonde replies, glancing at his son reluctantly nodding. The younger blonde raises his head and exclaims, "Head back to Magnolia. Let's all fall back." Returning to Magnolia, everyone stares at the God Slayer in disbelief, but they nod their heads and start to leave through the broken front doors when they see their master in this condition. Encouraged by this development, the Phantom Mages launch an assault on the fleeing fairy tale mages. Naruto approaches Kakashi and Obito, hands his father to them, and then says, "You two take Toussaint and get back to the guild." The silver-haired S-class mage turns to face the man he considers a little brother and asks, "What about you, Naruto?" "I'll hold off the phantom bastards," the blonde replies, adopting a serious expression. "Go now. I won't allow them to touch any of you." As the two men flee with Minato, Kakashi nods his head. Naruto turns to face the Phantom Mages as he approaches them and unleashes his magical power, which shoots out of him in waves of black lightning, bringing many of them to their knees. I will not allow any of you to get past me. I won't let you touch any of my guild members. If you don't believe me, come try your luck by yourself. A blackish-green magic seal appears beneath him, and Naruto frowns as he intones, Wind God's Tornado Barrier. Many of the mages retreat as he approaches, but the blonde stops when he feels multiple spells coming at him from multiple directions. A huge funnel of black wind appears around him, blocking all of the spells and directing them at other phantom mages. Fujin no Tatsumaki Barrier. Big mistake, the blonde god slayer says, his eyes flashing with rage. As the tornado subsides, he yells, Storm God's Bellow. As his magic power grows and a dark gray magic circle with a black edge appears in front of him, he unleashes a massive funnel of black wind with black ice at its core, and black water and lightning encircling it on all sides. Arashi no Dogo. After the bellow eliminates all of the phantom mages and demolishes half of the guild hall, Naruto examines his creation, wipes his hands, and turns to return to Magnolia. Upon returning to the guild, he enters the basement to find Makarov sitting there with his staff across his lap, Lucy looking guilty, Natsu furious, and all of his guildmates looking depressed. Mirajane quickly envelops him in an embrace, saying, I'm happy you all right. When you didn't come back with everyone else, I was worried that Arya had gotten you like he did Master Minato. No worries, Mira-chan, I just stayed back to keep the phantom bastards from attacking the rest of you while you retreated, the blonde says, kissing her discreetly. Shortly after I sounded the retreat, Arya and Gajil's magical signatures vanished, indicating that they fled like a couple of bitches. What harm has been done? The youngest grandson looks up at Makarov, who responds, it's better than you'd think. The only true casualty is Minato-chan, who lost 3/4 of his magical power, but poor Lyuzuka-chan claims he is still young enough to recover without having to locate what was lost. Everyone is exhausted and has minor wounds. Has anybody tried to get in touch with Laxus Baka yet? Asks Naruto, nodding his head. We were just getting ready to before you walked in, Mira responds, shaking her head. The blonde shakes his head and says, that's not advisable, you know Laxus' hatred towards Yuji-chan. Third Sama was going to get in touch with him through Lacrima. He is still upset that you excommunicated Ivan and then named Toussaint the fourth master rather than him because Toussaint refused to reinstate Ivan. He despises him. It is therefore best to let someone else handle it. Lisana-chan, could you please call Laxus? The elderly man asks, nodding his head as he turns to face Lisana. The white-haired girl nods to the former master and proceeds to activate the communication. Lacrima. Naruto looks at Lucy and approaches her, saying, don't look so down, Lucy-chan, we aren't beaten yet. Tell him that we need him to come back to help with Phantom Lord. Mira asks, what do you mean, Lucy? And everyone looks at the blonde spirit mage, who looks up and responds, but this is all my fault. The blonde responds, glancing at the S-Class Strauss, I was attacked by 2 Element 4 members while you guys were away. They claimed that I was their target and attempted to capture me. If Makarov-san and Kashina-san hadn't been present, they would have been successful. She pauses, and Makarov continues. I spoke with a friend in the Magic Council after learning that Lucy-chan was the target of the 2 Phantom Mages, and I learned that Phantom Lord had just been given an S-Class job to rescue a teenage girl. Jude Heartfilia, the owner of Heartfilia Concern, made the job offer, and Lucy Heartfilia, his daughter and the heir to the Heartfilia fortune, was the target. Why didn't you ever tell us you were rich, Lucy? Natsu asks, as everyone stares at the blonde girl in disbelief. It's not like I tried to hide it, the girl with blonde hair responds. Shaking her head, I couldn't bear to live with him any longer, so I fled last year. It took him a whole year to realize I was gone, and now he's suddenly decided he wants me back. He never gave me any attention and only ever cared about his company. Well, I will never, ever go back there. So you see, this is all my fault, she says, sobbing, because if I hadn't joined Fairy Tail, the guild hall wouldn't have been destroyed, and Master Minato wouldn't have been hurt. I apologize so much, it's not your fault. Lucy Phantom would have found a reason to attack us whether you were here or not, the older blonde says, looking up into Naruto's blue eyes as she is startled to feel a hand on her head. We will be devastated if we allow you to return to a place where you are unhappy because you are a member of this guild. She smiles and starts to cry happy tears as the rest of the guild agrees, saying, thank you everyone. I really appreciate it. Lisana is speaking to Laxus, who is refusing to return, when she says, Laxus the master is hurt. Phantom is after our guildmate Lucy, while Natsu and Gray advise her not to cry. The blonde lightning mage simply laughs and says, maybe Minato Oji should retire and give the guild to someone younger. Please, you need to come back, we need you. Ha 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 ha. Lucy? Who is that? Is that the new member with the bust? I'll comply with her wishes if she accepts me as my woman. Ha 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 ha. When Naruto hears this, he moves Lysana aside and approaches the Lacrima, saying to his cousin, "Stop with the bullshit. Laxus." The older blonde frowns at his cousin and responds, "What the hell do you need me for? The guild needs all of its S-class mages, and you are one of them, Obito, Kakashi. And you are all present as the big bad god slayer unable to handle Phantom. What's the matter, Itoko?" "At least we're here defending the guild," Naruto snarls in response. In contrast to you, who is out in the unknown with his tail between his legs and refuses to return out of fear. Laxus begins to spark and growls back at the other blonde and says, "Scared? You little shit. Why? I will return, but not to engage in combat with Phantom. I'm coming back to kick your ass and show you who's scared." "Remind yourself that, Laxus Baka," replies Naruto. Scoffing. "In any case, the guild doesn't need a crazy person like you, so stay put." The younger blonde breaks the Lacrima with his fist as Laxus is about to reply, then turns to the other guild members and says, "We're on our own. We already have 5 S-class mages and Gigi, the 5th strongest wizard saint, so we don't need Laxus anyhow." In response, Makarov shakes his head and declares, "Actually, I'm not going to help. We'll be fine no matter what Phantom throws our way next. I only serve as Minato-chan's advisor within the guild. Minato-chan and all of you young people are responsible for protecting the guild." "Apologies, Naruto-kun." The blonde god slayer gives the oldest Drayar a gentle smile and says, "It's okay. Gigi, you're right." Everyone grudgingly agrees. "You defended the guild for over 40 years, now it's our turn." However, the moment is marred when the ground trembles and they hear a mechanical sound, surprising everyone. A Euro. Including Urza, who is in the guild shower. Sayuro. And they all rush outside to the back of the guild, where the noise originated. When they arrive, they see a huge guild hall with robotic legs stumbling across the lake toward Magnolia Town. Urza, dressed only in a towel, exclaims, "What the devil is that?" The walking guild hall stops around 2 miles away, and Naruto, who is in front of everyone, responds, "That is a mobile guild hall. My guess is it Phantom." The entire Fairy Tail Guild watches in wonder and disbelief, wondering what will happen to their guild next. Now when the front of the Phantom Hall lowers and something emerges from the opening, Makarov immediately recognizes it as a magic cannon and realizes that nothing positive could come from this. A moment later, everyone has their answer, and then Jose's voice can be heard over a public address system. "Fairy Tail, give us Lucy Heartfilia. Maybe you can save your dreadful guild hall if you follow my instructions." Stepping forward, Naruto exclaims, "Go screw yourself, Porla. Lucy belongs to this guild. We would never part with a family member, and she is ours. Especially not to appease a bad father who wants his daughter back so he can use her as an object." The other blonde's words cause Lucy, who is in the back of the crowd, to start crying. She feels safe and loved and asks herself, "Is this what it's like to have an older brother? It's great." Jose Porla, sitting in his throne inside the Phantom Hall, is furious as he starts to radiate purple magic power from his body. After a short while, he calms down by taking a deep breath before speaking to the blonde god slayer, saying, "If that's how you want it, then fine. I'll just pick Lucy Heartfilia out of the wreckage and destroy your entire guild and the town behind you. Ha 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 ha. Fire up the Jupiter cannon," he says, turning to face his guild members. "Take them out." As directed, the Phantom Lord members start the Jupiter cannon's firing sequence. As everyone watches the barrel of the cannon start to spark, Naruto clenches his teeth. After a few minutes, it releases a massive wave of destructive magical energy, and Urza surges forward, briefly engulfed in yellow light before it disperses to reveal her wearing a bulky, darkly colored armor. The armor is divided into 2 parts, the first of which is a lower plate that covers her stomach and most of her chest. Near the top of the armor is a simple diamond and striped design engraved on it. The neck has a large cylindrical plate that is divided into 6 progressively larger sections. Around each shoulder are very large shoulder guards with 4 distinct sections, each of which has a large spike jutting off to separate it from the next. On top of that is another plate that hangs from the neck and reaches her midsection. 4 round, metallic extensions extend over this top plate and attach underneath the plate around the neck. The armor has large gauntlets with the same sectioning pattern as the rest of the armor, with the sections getting smaller as the gauntlets approach her hands. Beneath the bottom chest plate is a skirt with a woven pattern. The skirt's edge has small spikes, and a larger spike hangs beneath each other, dangling over the leg greaves, which have the same sectioning pattern as the rest of the armor but are split down the middle with a large piece covering the knee. Several curved spikes protrude from the outward-facing sides of the greaves. Her ultimate defensive armor is known as adamantine armor, Kongo no Yoroi. The redhead approaches her older brother and declares, "Stand back, Naruto Onisan. I'll use my best defense to keep the guild safe." She combines the two shields on the back and creates a large aqua-green magic circle while calling out, "Adamantine Barrier. Barrier Congo." But Naruto won't have any of that. He unleashes his magic power, causing waves of golden light to emerge, the weight of which fills the guild with a sense of security, safety, and hope. He sparks with black lightning before approaching his adopted sister and whispering, "Lightning God's Shield." As a massive black and yellow magic seal materializes in front of Urza's barrier, it transforms into a massive shield composed of black and yellow lightning. Raijin no Shirudo. In a battle for supremacy, the Jupiter cannon beam strikes the lightning shield first. After a minute, the cannon beam prevails, shattering and destroying the lightning shield, but by the time it reaches Urza's barrier, it has significantly weakened, pushing the S-class mage back slightly. After 2 more minutes, the beam finally fades to nothing, losing to Urza's barrier, but the damage has already been done because the barrier is now cracked and the woman's armor is also damaged. "Thank you for the help, Oni-san," the redhead says, letting go of her technique and turning to face her brother with a faint smile. "Don't ever do something so stupid again, Urza Imouto," the blonde responds, poking her in the forehead with 2 fingers. "If you hadn't put up that lightning shield, that blast might have destroyed my armor and put me out of action for a while. I would be furious if you were harmed." Urza looks down in embarrassment and nods her head in agreement, but her grousing is interrupted when Jose says, well, so it appears you were able to avoid death for the time being. I'll give you another chance since you've seen how strong the Jupiter cannon is. The next shot will be your downfall unless you give me Lucy Heartfilia. You have 15 minutes to make a decision." "How many times and ways do you want me to say it, Jose?" Naruto responds, shaking his head. "Go to hell. Fairy Tail never gives up on theirs. We have standards, unlike Phantom Lord. In order for you to accept your offer and shove it, I will no longer allow you to harm my family. I'm going to get your ass." Jose becomes enraged and yells over the PA, "You want to mess with me, boy? Okay, then if you can, come get me. I'll show you the strength of a wizened saint by defeating you, just as I defeated your father." Naruto, however, looks at his fellow guild members and says, "Okay, here's the plan." After the man uses his magic to create a number of shades and sends them out to attack the guild, the pink-haired dragon slayer salutes and answers, "Yes, sir. I want you to go up there, Natsu, and destroy the power source for that cannon. Let's have a good time." The blue cat grabs his companion, flies toward the cannon, and uses Era to make his wings appear. "Imouto, I need you to be a part of the team I'm taking inside," the blonde says, turning to Urza. "The other 3 members of the team are Gray, Elfman, and Kakashi. I want each of you to locate and put down the members of Red Fox and Element 4. I'm going straight after Jose to put a stop to this." The named individuals all nod their heads in agreement, getting ready to enter the enemy guild hall using their magic. "Mira-chan, I want you and Obito to lead the others down here in defending the guild from those shades." He turns to face the other members of the guild, but he asks his fiancée copyright. "You can count on me, Naruto." The white-haired woman nods her head before approaching him and kissing him. "What about Lucy-chan, though?" At this, Naruto turns to Obito and asks, "Obito ni, is it possible for you to take Lucy to your unique dimension using your unique authority of the gods, Kamui, spell?" "Yeah, but she can only stay there for about 4 hours before I have to bring her back, or she'll die." The older S-class mage nods. The blonde nods his head in agreement and responds, "Okay, then go ahead and do it. Only I can live there forever. Let's go now." Following that directive, each member of the team does something different. Kakashi uses his lightning magic to increase his speed and jumping power to leap over to the guild hall. Gray uses his ice make magic to create a path for him and Elfman to follow. Urza equips herself with her Heaven's Wheel armor, Tenrin no Yoroi, and flies off towards it, and Naruto transforms himself into lightning and shoots off towards the building. "Lucy-chan, in order to keep you safe, I'm going to store you in a special dimension that I can create due to the special properties of my Sharingan," Obito says as he approaches Lucy, his eyes switching to the Sharingan. "Are you prepared?" The buxom blonde slowly nods her head, as the man's eyes morph, the tome coming together to form a 3-sided pinwheel, before he whispers out, "Authority of the gods." She feels herself being drawn into a vortex a moment later, and then she disappears. "You ready, Mira-san?" Obito asks as he turns around and returns to the front of the pack, standing beside Mira. The white-haired woman gives the older S-class mage a menacing grin before responding, "I'm always up for a good fight, but old man, do you think your fragile bones can take it?" At that question, the 35-year-old man receives a checkmark. "I'll show you, old little girl. Damn it, I'm only 35. Who can eliminate the most shades?" After yelling the battle cry, the two inspire the guild to attack the shades. In the meantime, The Jupiter Cannon. After obeying his elder brother's orders, Natsu has been having a terrible time. He first attempted to destroy the cannon by striking the barrel, but this only caused his fists to hurt and the metal to barely get dented. When Happy suggested that he go inside the cannon to try to destroy it, he discovered the power source, but fortunately, a phantom mage was protecting it. The pink-haired dragon slayer discovered that the man in front of him was Totemaru of the element 4, the member who controls fire. A young man named Totemaru has long, two-toned black and white hair that is tied up in a Japanese-style top knot on the back of his head. The black part of his hair covers the front and left side of his head, while the smaller white part is concentrated on the left. The top knot also has the two distinct colors. Correspondingly, Totemaru has a simple marking on his face that consists of 3 horizontal black bars that run in a linear formation across the ridge of his nose and both cheeks, with the longest on the middle. He is dressed like a ninja, wearing a long, orange, reddish gi-like cloth that is fastened with a black belt. The robe's sleeves are rolled up, and it has thick fishnet on the sides and prominent reddish fur around the collar. A simple shirt appears from underneath the gi, and a pair of loose black pants are tucked inside simple black boots. He also has a simple katana strapped to his left hip. Natsu, who thought he would win easily, clenched his fists and attempted to punch the man with the 2 different colors of hair, but instead his fist struck himself, leaving him sitting on the floor. Wondering how he did it, the 18-year-old shakes it off, gets up, returns to his fighting stance, and declares, "I don't know how that happened, but it doesn't matter. I will kick your ass." He rushes the other mage a second time while setting his right fist on fire. Totemaru laughs as he approaches him and lashes out with his flame-covered fist, then abruptly makes a motion with his eyes, and his fist alters its trajectory and strikes himself, knocking him back once more. "I told you, fool. I am the absolute master of fire. Not even a dragon slayer's flames can hurt me. You have no chance of beating me, so give up." As he sits and considers what Naruto would do, Natsu rubs his cheek. After a few moments, he realizes that if his magic doesn't work, he'll just have to use hand-to-hand combat because that's what Naruto would do. He gets up, wipes his cheek, grins, and says, "Okay then, if I can't use my flames to beat ya, then I'll just pound you with my fists until you're out cold." He rushes the S-class mage once more, but this time he doesn't have flames. Totemaru, unflinching, responds, "Well, if you're not going to use magic, then I will." He makes a ball of blue flames in his hand and throws it at the pink-haired teen. When it's the size of a football, he's shocked when Natsu just opens his mouth and eats the ball of flames, which causes him to miss the right hook that lands on his face and sends him flying into the main lacrima for the Jupiter Cannon, which cracks from the force of his body hitting it, but he doesn't care. "How?" he says after he recovers. "How could you continue to eat away at my icy flames? I'm the Fire Dragon Slayer." Grins Natsu. "I eat fire to heal my wounds and replenish my magic stores because fire magic doesn't work on me. Your flames are useless against me, but you might be able to turn mine against you so that I can finish kicking your ass. Come down here." The other fire mage growls at this. He unsheathes his katana and responds, "You want to fight? All right. I'll fight you." He disappears from view and suddenly materializes in front of Natsu, aiming for a slash. The pink-haired teen jumps back to avoid it, but Totemaru follows him and slashes at him again, this time avoiding him by flipping up into the air. Totemaru then appears in his face again, attempting a third slash, but Natsu counters with a spin kick that sends the man to the ground. Natsu lands again, and this time the man is in his face, but he surprises him by saying, "Fire dragons roar." Point blank, he lets out the surge of flames. As the smoke clears, Totemaru can be seen screaming, "How dare you!" with his sword red hot and his face displaying anger. "That's how you want to play? All right, take this." He creates a large orange magic seal and releases a torrent of yellow-colored flames at the pink-haired teen. Natsu, however, just smirks and sucks the flames up. However, when he finishes, he begins to turn green and then vomits. When he's done, he says, "Those were the nastiest and stinkiest flames I have ever consumed. Oh no." The other fire mage releases his sword and it flies through the air, hitting the crack he made in the main lacrima. Because Totemaru is distracted, he attacks with his katana once more, but he senses it and turns around in time to counter, kicking the other fire mage's hands. The lacrima can't contain the energy and explodes, destroying all the other lacrima around it as well as the gears and other components that control the Jupiter Cannon. Natsu stands triumphantly after the explosion is over and the smoke has cleared, but he is soon overcome by motion sickness as the guild hall begins to move again. Totemaru arrives on a broken gear and smirks at his opponent, saying, "Well, you succeeded in destroying the cannon, but it seems that I have the upper hand." Happy shakes his partner and says, "Natsu, get up." The Dragon Slayer isn't getting up, so Totemaru leaps down and gets ready to cast a fire spell to put an end to the battle. "Come on, that guy is gonna get you if you don't." A phantom would always prevail over a fairy. However, as he prepares, his magic seal vanishes and his arms are entirely covered in ice, startling him. What's this? He doesn't get long to ponder it because a moment later he gets uppercutted by a large reptilian arm, as Elfman appears and says, "Real men fly away." As promised, he sends Totemaru flying out of the ceiling hole. The guild hall stops moving after a few minutes, and when Natsu gets up, he sees Gray and Elfman. "What are you two doing here?" asks the pink-haired mage, who appears perplexed. "Yeah right, you were doing just an excellent job of beating him from the floor," Gray snarks back, scoffing at this. "I had this under control." At this point, the Dragon Slayer appears and confronts the Ice Mage, saying, "What was that icicle?" "Face it, Flame Brain, we saved your ass, would you like a piece of me?" "Hey you guys, knock it off," Elfman says, separating the two before the argument can go any farther while Natsu asks, "Naruto Aniki sent you guys in here?" Gray relaxes and nods his head, recalling that Naruto Aniki sent us in here to find the Element 4 and take them out, especially now that Abyss Break has been activated. Elfman laughs because he didn't know that before. "Well, if you're looking for Element 4, then you just took out the fire guy." The large man then becomes solemn once more, saying, "All right, that's one down and 3 to go. I'll look for the earth guy. Urza-san is looking for the air guy, Kakashi-senpai is looking for black steel, and Gray, you go try to find the water woman." Natsu clenches his fists and declares, "I'm going to go look for Gajeel. Naruto Aniki will take care of the Phantom Master and then it'll all be over." Gray nods his head in agreement with a sneer. Gray says, "Go do whatever you want. Flame Brain, we have a fight to finish. Dragon Slayer against Dragon Slayer." The three men split up after saying, "It's not like we need your assistance to remove the remaining element 4 inches. Alongside Gray in one of the Phantom Guild's hallways, the black-haired Ice Mage is running around looking for the only female member of Element 4. He pauses to rest and looks out the window next to him, and when he does, he realizes that it's raining outside, but he knows that can't be true because the sun is still shining close to the guild. Deciding that Juvia must be outside, he starts looking for a way out, which he eventually finds, and emerges onto what appears to be one of the guild's sides. He locates Juvia of the Great Sea, his target. There, this battle proceeds exactly as canonized. As Gray strokes his damp hair and remarks, "Looks like the storm in your heart has stopped," the sun shines down on Juvia for the first time after the battle. "Remember that you are in charge of the rain, not the other way around, Juvia-san. That's what being an elemental mage entails." The 17-year-old with the blue hair can only nod in agreement and take the Ice Mage's advice to heart, elevating the boy in her thoughts and secretly declaring that he is her one true love. In the meantime, Elfman, following his separation from Natsu and Gray, the big man started looking for the Element 4 Earth magic user. Saul, he discovered the man around the same time that Gray started fighting Juvia. Initially, all of his attacks were ineffective because the older man would simply vanish into the ground and reappear elsewhere. However, things quickly got worse when Saul started attacking him with earth and sand magic, severely injuring him. Saul decided to take advantage of this and used his Merci la Vie spell to make Elfman relive his worst memory, the day he almost killed Lysana, where we now find the largest Strauss sibling standing there repeatedly reliving the memory as his body slowly begins to turn to stone. Then, in order to divert his attention, Saul used his earth magic to teleport Lysana into the Robot Guild's hands and hold her hostage, squeezing her between its fingers. When the memory loop reaches the 10th time, the large man shakes his head and recalls what Naruto said. "Elfman, a man is someone who protects what he loves with both arms and all the strength of his heart. A man isn't someone who lets pride lead him. I understand that you can't do a full takeover at this time, but that doesn't mean you should use all of your strength to defend what you care about. But when the time comes, I'm confident you'll pull off a full body takeover and prove to the world your true self and why it's never a good idea to harm someone you love." With a powerful roar, the white-haired man breaks free from the Earth Mage's spell as his body releases waves of yellow-colored magic that destroy the stones around him. Remembering these words also helps him to reconcile with the memory of nearly killing his baby sister. He shouts, "Take over, Beast Soul," as a purple magic seal materializes beneath him as his magical power peaks. When the magic seal eventually disappears, Saul is startled to see the beast's form instead of Elfman standing in front of him. Beast Elfman then smacks the scrawny man away, but he flips in midair and throws earth spells at the changed mage, but they don't work. Beast Elfman then grabs him and slams him into the ground before punching the living daylights out of the older man. When he's finished, the man's face is swollen and his spirit actually leaves his body, but Elfman reabsorbs it. He then hears Lysana yell, "Elfman knee." The youngest Strauss is initially frightened when he lands in front of her, but her fears are allayed when Beast Elfman uses his strength to separate the fingers, grab her, and move her to safety. This causes his eyes to stop glowing purple as he turns away from Saul and dashes out of the guild's hole and makes his way over all the mechanical crap to reach the hand that Lysana is in. The beast turns back into himself, frowns deeply, and says, "I'm sorry it took me so long, Imouto," but when she looks up, she sees her brother's blue eyes smiling back at her from the beast's form. "I apologize if I scared you. I apologize for being such a terrible older brother." "There's no need to apologize, Elf Nissan," says the youngest Strauss, simply shaking her head. "Yes, I do remember the last time you tried it, so I was initially afraid when you transformed back into the beast. However, I knew you had finally succeeded when I saw your eyes staring back at me rather than the beast's. I think you're the world's greatest big brother because you saved me." At this, the large man breaks down in tears and drops to his knees, saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I swear to Lysana that I will always use my heart and my arms to protect you and Mirene from now on." Lysana simply smiles softly, embraces her brother, and responds, "Okay, Elf Ni. We'll keep you to that promise." The two youngest Strauss siblings share a tender moment and say, "We love you." Alongside Urza, the red-haired S-class mage, is currently wearing her flight armor, Hisho no Yoroi, which actually has very few armored parts, mostly just on her left leg and arm, while the rest is little more than a cheetah print bikini with ears at the top of her head and some blue fabric here and there. Urza is standing across from Arya the Great Sky, master of airspace magic, the leader and strongest member of the Element 4. She and Naruto were traveling through the guild together, looking for Jose, but before they could reach the Wizard Saint, the blonde had a strange feeling, so he told her to get down and swung around with his left leg, and lo and behold, he struck Arya. It turns out that he had tried to sneak up on them and was planning to do to Naruto what he did to Minato, so that the God Slayer could not fight his master. This is the simple reason why she is standing across from Arya in her current armor. Then, knowing that the best way to defeat someone who can use any kind of air magic is to use speed required to her current attire, Naruto asked Urza if she could handle him. Of course, she got an affirmative, so he left her there to deal with Arya while he continued on his way towards Jose. Now, the redhead is prepared for one of the hardest battles of her life. After giving the redhead a quick glance, Arya starts to cry, "So thus it's just too sad. A stunning woman like you being chopped off before her time. Where is the source of all this sadness? I cannot afford to play around with one like you, Titania," he says, taking off his blindfold to reveal his magenta eyes. "So I'm going to use everything I have," as magical power envelops his body. Urza notices the damage the ground is receiving and uses the increased speed of her flight armor to dodge as he takes a stance with his hands out, palms up, right hand facing upright, and left hand inverted. He then fires off invisible bullets of air. While he isn't slowing down, he doesn't let up, though, as he extends only his left hand and another seal appears, saying, "Zetsu." The man fires off a series of invisible airspaces at the redhead, but she rushes forward and slashes through them all, causing them to explode. As she continues on her way to Arya, the man takes a step back and assumes his first stance once more as a larger magic circle appears this time, and his eyes are bright as he exclaims, "Zero." A huge smoky whirlwind is visible as he creates a very large, spiraling airspace in front of him. "This is the end for you, Urza Scarlet," he laughs. "The airspace of death is the one that Zero created, able to devour every living thing. There is no way out." The redhead sighs at this and starts firing off smaller airspaces inside the main one. She rushes forward once more, slicing up the smaller airspaces before cutting Zero, which briefly shocks Arya as she strikes him with several slashes and emerges behind him. The big guy can only stifle, "How," before his eyes roll into the back of his head and he falls to the ground face first. Defeated, Urza re-equips back to her usual armor and shakes her head. "That was easy. If you were what Phantom Lord considered to be S-class, then your guild was much weaker than we thought." At that moment, she feels the entire guild tremble and feels her older brother's power wash over her. "I would say you were a worthy opponent, Arya, but that is a lie." "Well, it looks like Naruto Onisan found Jose and is ready for a real fight," she says, grinning as she exits the Phantom Hall and joins her fellow guild members in defending their guild. Maybe it will be the Phantom Master who encourages Onisan to finally use his most powerful magic, Storm God Slayer magic, she says, heading for the closest exit. With Natsu and Kakashi knowing who his target was, the silver-haired S-class mage split off from the others as soon as he entered the Phantom Guild. After some time of searching, he eventually located Gajeel Red Fox and a few other Phantom mages when Kakashi threatened to hold the younger man accountable for what his friend Arya had done to his sensei Minato. The Iron Dragon Slayer simply laughed and said he wasn't even worth his time, so he gave the order for his guildmates to attack Kakashi. After the elder S-class mage killed the flunkies with his array of elemental magics, Aramentor Umaho, the man was about to fight his real target when the wall exploded and flames erupted. When the flames subsided, Natsu emerged through the hole. The pink-haired boy looked around, saw the unconscious phantom mages, and then recognized Kakashi. He then thanked the older mage for taking care of the weaklings for him and promised to deal with Gajeel. They started arguing about who would fight the Iron Dragon Slayer, and they are still fighting him. Gajeel, growing tired of it, inhales deeply as a pale green magic seal materializes in front of him and he cries, "Iron Dragon's Roar." Tetsuryu no Hoko. As he releases a tornado of sharpened iron towards the two fairy tale mages, Natsu and Kakashi stop arguing as the younger man turns and quickly lets off a spell, Fire Dragon's Roar. A gray magic seal appears in front of Kakashi's outstretched hand as the torrent of flames collides head-on with the tornado of iron, causing an explosion that produces a lot of smoke. Kakashi then casts a spell of his own, saying, "Wind Magic. Tornado. Kei's Maho. Tatsumaki." The phantom mage ducks out of the way as a moderate-sized tornado of wind emerges from the seal and blows through the smoke, heading directly for Gajeel. The tornado then strikes the wall behind him, creating a hole that leads to the outside. Kakashi turns to his younger counterpart and says, "Okay Natsu, here is the deal, we have to take Gajeel together." This has the effect of allowing the two fairy tale mages to observe how their allies are doing against the shades. They are pleased to see that the Mira is in her Satan soul form and that Obito is using his fire magic to keep the shadow creatures at bay. The pink-haired teenager nods in agreement, and the two turn to face Gajeel, prepared to take him out quickly and forcefully. "The sooner we beat him, the quicker we can get back down there to help our comrades," he says. The Iron Dragon Slayer smirks at the challenge as he unleashes his magic power, which comes off of him in waves of dark green light, saying, "You want a piece of me?" He gulps a little when he sees that his two opponents are on the same page because he is aware of how strong Kakashi is said to be and that the salamander is one of the strongest non-S-class mages in Fairy Tail. Bring it. He intones, "Iron Dragon's Scales." As a magic seal materializes beneath him and his body transforms, his skin turning to iron scales. Kakashi shakes his head and then says to Natsu, "Okay kid, here's the plan. Use your flames to increase your speed. Get behind him and locking in a full Nelson. Then I'll rush him from the front and use my most powerful lightning spell on him." After it's finished, he grins with his sharpened teeth and rushes at the two other mages. Natsu nods, and the two go into action. The 18-year-old uses flames to propel himself past his fellow Dragon Slayer, shocking the black-haired man and enabling him to lock in the full Nelson hold. Seeing his opportunity, Kakashi calls forth a dark blue magic circle over his hand, which starts to spark and crackle with lightning when the seal disappears. A ball-like mass of blue lightning appears in the silver-haired man's hand as he utters, "Lightning Blade. Reikiri." He rushes the restrained Dragon Slayer, who starts to struggle in his fellow Slayer's arms, but Kakashi quickly closes the distance and launches the lightning attack, which hits Gajeel in the chest, shocking him but not piercing his iron scales. Natsu is also shocked by the attack, but the pink-haired boy bites his lip to keep from screaming. Gajeel, not so fortunate, cries out in agony, "Gah." When Kakashi dismisses his spell after electrocuting the younger men for 2 minutes, Natsu lets go of Gajeel and carefully hops back from him. Gajeel appears to be on his feet as he stands there smoking, but that is disproved when Kakashi is suddenly struck by his Iron Dragon's club and sent flying into the wall behind himself. Natsu simply grunts and remarks, "Man, you're a tough bastard. That should have defeated you, but let's keep things interesting because I'm willing to wager that you only have enough strength for one more attack. I'll give you my best if you give me yours." The man with the black hair smiles and says, "Okay, let's do it, Salamander." He jumps up in the air and turns his arm to an iron club again and descends toward the Fire Dragon Slayer. Natsu summons up all his magic power, wreathing himself in flames, then takes a special stance, concentrating the flames to his fists and intones, "Dragon Slayer Secret Art. Crimson Lotus. Fire Dragon's Fist. Guren Karyu Ken. Metsuryu Ogi," as he confronts the iron club directly. Natsu throws the club to the right, then launches a flurry of flaming punches at Gajeel's body, cracking the iron scales with each blow. When he delivers the final blow, he sends the black-haired mage through the building's roof, destroying it and leaving him dead in its debris. Natsu's fist and the end of the club collide, creating a shockwave, but the flames rush over the iron, causing cracks and ruts in it. The pink-haired teenager smirks as he examines his creation, then screams for everyone to hear, "Fairy Tail rules." While pumping his fists in the air, he faints instantly after this and begins to fall forward, but Kakashi stops him and simply shakes his head, saying, "You kids these days, always overdoing things. You performed admirably, Natsu, and I have no doubt that Minato-sensei and, more significantly, Naruto will be pleased with you. Take a nap now, and let us handle the rest. The war will be over soon. Naruto is going to show Jose why it's unwise to harm a god slayer's loved ones." he says with a smile as he carries the now unconscious teen over his shoulder and makes his way to the hole outside while feeling his pseudo-little brother's power wash over the entire guild hall. With that, he leaps out of the hole with Natsu and heads back to the rest of Fairy Tail. Time to get back down to our comrades and fight the shades. Alongside Naruto, after leaving Urza behind to deal with Arya, the blonde god slayer started moving through the Phantom Guild Hall in search of Jose. Members of the guild attempted to stop him along the way, but they all met the same Fatea Euro. One hit and they were knocked out. Now, he stands outside the door to the Phantom Master's room and, recalling what the cunning bastard did to his father, decides to make a Dreyar entrance using his grandfather's Giant's Wrath spell. He destroys the door and the wall it is attached to it. He sees Jose waiting on a chair that resembles a throne. As soon as he steps through the dust, the wizard saint gets up and says, "Welcome, Naruto Dreyar." Grinning, he responds, "I bet you have. I've been waiting for your arrival." The blonde gives him an angry glare. The Phantom Lord Master simply chuckles at this remark before he puts on his wizard saint attire using requip. "I'm sorry to disappoint you, but Arya didn't get to weaken me before I got here." His new outfit, which is less flamboyant and more militaristic, consists of a long, grayish coat that is closed on the right side of his chest by a belt that circles his waist and another that crosses his right shoulder and has the Phantom Lord's emblem on its buckle. The coat has wide golden stripes that extend from the high collar, which has two large rings hanging from it on the front, to the cuffs, with additional golden sections on each side that correspond to the closure and below the waist. His wizard saint's medallion remains in the same place, but is now adorned with dark ribbons, a brownish cape, with a broad golden stripe around the edges and a few small shield-shaped ornaments spaced equally apart, covers Jose's left arm. Loose pants are tucked inside boots, he wears no hat, and his hair is tied up in a high ponytail. With an evil smile, the man starts to radiate purple magical power from his body. "Are you ready, boy? You're going to discover just how much power separates a basic S-class mage like you from a wizard saint like me." In response, Naruto shakes his head and says, "Porla, do you really not understand? As you just mentioned, I'm not just an S-class mage. There's a reason I'm ranked third in my guild, behind Godfather and Tucson. Allow me to demonstrate the power differential between a god slayer like me and a dark mage like you." With these words, the blonde unleashes his true power, and his body starts to radiate magical power just as much as the wizard saint's, but now it is dark gray, like storm clouds, rather than golden as it once was. With the exception of two, Mirajane and Makarov, all of the Fairy Tail mages are perplexed by the abrupt change in the weather as Naruto unleashes his power within the Phantom Guild. The old man smiles up at the clouds and muses, "So you're going all out from the beginning, are you, Naruto-kun? That's great. Jose would be the opponent you should throw all of your strength at, grandson. Show him the dangers of tampering with Fairy Tail while you wipe the floor." Back inside, Jose is taken aback by the power the youngest Dreyar is unleashing and finds it hard to accept that he is on par with himself. The wizard saint snarls angrily, "You little brat. You believe you are better than me? Well, reconsider." He summons up a purple magic seal and then moves his hand in a wide arc in front of himself and intones, "Dark Pulse. Yami Perusa," causing a blast to go off directly in front of him, where Naruto is. He starts to chuckle, believing that he has already vanquished the God Slayer, but his laughter is cut short when a black wind blade emerges from the smoke directly at him. He avoids it by moving to the right, and when he looks back to see where it came from, he sees the blonde standing there unharmed. Naruto charges at him, dousing his hand in wind, water, ice, and black lightning, and when he hits the man, he punches him, saying, "Storm God's Weather Fist. Tenkiken no Arashi." As a torrent of stormy weather is unleashed and shears through the entire guild hall and reaches the lake below, Jose, realizing how dangerous that attack is, jumps back out of the way, causing Naruto to hit the ground he was just standing on and blow a hole in it. Jose's expression is one of pure shock and outrage as he asks, "What kind of magic is that? Though nothing like that, I've heard you could use God Slayer magics. How on earth are you?" After removing his hand from the big hole he just created, the blonde gets to his feet and responds, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki Dreyar, and I am the adopted son of Zarok, the god of storms. The Storm God Slayer is who I am. Now put an end to your running and start fighting." With his hands and feet covered in Storm God Slayer magic, he rushes the guild master once more. Jose, on the other hand, covers his limbs with darkness magic, and the two start a furious fistfight. After 10 minutes of this, Naruto gains the upper hand by kicking Jose in the stomach, breaking several of his ribs and sending him crashing into the stairs to his throne. Both men are moving so quickly that a normal human and even most mages could only catch a glimpse of them each time they collide. Their strikes cause shockwaves of storm and darkness magic that destroy everything around them. When the blonde lands at the bottom of the stairs, where he started the fight, he looks at the wizard saint with complete contempt. He starts to approach the man who has been knocked down when he hears him laughing and asks, "What's so funny, Porla? You've fallen into my trap." The guild master responds, getting to his feet right away, entangled in shade. Shido Makikomu. The blonde god slayer is grabbed by his ghosts. When Naruto starts to struggle while being strangled by the shades, Jose laughs and says, "It's useless. Their hold will get tighter the harder you struggle. You're done, boy." The blonde gives the man a fierce look and says, "Storm God's lightning strike." Through the shade that covers his throat. Arashi no Rakurai. When a massive bolt of black lightning strikes him and the shades as it crashes through the roof from the sky, the shades instantly disintegrate and Naruto falls to the ground unscathed. Jose frowns and asks, "That storm going on outside right now, didn't you create it? Is that the reason you were able to identify that lightning bolt just now?" Naruto merely nods before calling forth a massive gray magic seal with a black outline above his head. When the lake's waters reach 60 feet in height and the winds reach over 200 miles per hour, everything rushes towards the hole in the roof caused by the lightning. Naruto calls forth the forces he just created and exclaims, "Storm God's crushing tsunami." The wizard saint is hit by all the winds and waves as he unleashes the full force of a tsunami. Arashi no Hasai tsunami. When the attack stops and the water starts to drain away, Jose is nowhere to be seen, but Naruto senses him right away and looks at one of the remaining ceiling beams to find him standing safely out of harm's way. The harsh black winds and heavy black waves destroy much of the room they're in, but Naruto is unaffected because he is resistant to storms of all kinds and is floating above all the water that now fills the room. The two men return to the wet floor after the water has drained to little more than puddles, with Jose glaring at the blonde with hatred and Naruto merely grinning at the damage his spell has done to the room. However, his grin is short-lived as Jose's power surges and he yells, "You will pay for this, you insolent child. You and your guild have gotten to me. It's time to pass away." He summons a purple magic seal and calls out, "Dark beam. Yami Bimu," as he shoots the blonde with a massive beam of dark magic. But Naruto already has a counter prepared. He takes a deep breath as a massive black and gray magic seal materializes in front of him, then lets it out while yelling, "Storm God's bellow." Arashi no Dogo unleashes a massive beam of black lightning, water, wind, ice, and snow. The two spells collide, vying for supremacy, but Naruto's spell prevails, slicing through the black beam and making its way directly toward Jose. "It's over, Jose," Naruto says as he starts to approach the fallen man once more. The bellow strikes the wizard saint, sending him flying back towards his throne, where he is simultaneously drowned, electrocuted, cut up, and frozen. He strikes his throne, shattering it and landing in a heap on its debris. "You cannot succeed no matter what you do from now on. Your shades have only slightly harmed my guild hall and my allies, and all of your S-class mages are now defeated. Fairy Tail has won this battle, and you, the guild master, are now defeated and lying at my feet." Halfway up the stairs, he stops as the man gets back up, his face crazed as he laughs hysterically and declares, "You're right, this war is over, but I'm the winner. Boy, die." He holds his hand out, gathering up shades as a large magic seal appears in front of him and he swipes his right hand forward and yells out, "Dead wave. Deado Vevu." He splits everything in its path as he launches a massive wave of ghosts in the direction of the blonde. Startled by this, Naruto has no time to defend himself, but they both hear someone else yell, "Light shield." Hikari Shirudo. When the smoke from the dark magic clears, the two men turn to see Minato Drayar standing there in his wizard saint's cloak, looking equally relieved and angry. This is because a golden magic seal appears in front of Naruto, shielding him from the attack. "To-san, what are you doing here?" asks Naruto as his father approaches him to stand in front of him. "You ought to be sleeping. Is Ka-chan aware that you're not in bed?" The fairy tale master chuckles at his son's words, "Ha ha ha, yes, Naruto. Your mother is aware that I'm awake and present. You've done well, Naruto. Don't worry, son, I'm back to full strength, with a little help from Mistogen." He gives Jose a quick glare before continuing to speak to his son. "I'm proud of you, son, because not many people can compete against a wizard saint and win." When his father compliments him, Naruto smiles and blushes a little. "But I'll finish things from here, kiddo," the man says, rubbing his short, spiky hair. "Jose and I need to take care of some unfinished business. Therefore, control your powers and restore the sun, or else your mother might force you to clean our house for a month." The younger blonde laughs at this. Realizing that his mother is insane enough to do it herself, he restores control over his power, and as he does so, the storm outside passes and the sun returns. As he turns to leave, Naruto gives his father a nod, but not before saying, Kick his ass back to the circus to San. Minato turns to Jose and says, I'll make this short, Jose Porla, because I can tell you're on your last legs after fighting my son. He then transforms into lightning and leaves the two guild masters to finish up according to the antiquated rules governing Fairy Tail. I will only give you one chance to acknowledge defeat now that the war is over and your guild has lost. Get on your knees and ask for pardon. You have just 3 seconds to comply. Jose exclaims, Me bow to you fairies? As Minato gathers light magic and counts to 1, while forming it into a ball between his hands. Not an opportunity. The blonde says, 2, I am the most powerful. The other man says, continuing his tirade, the strongest guild is mine. I am far superior to you. Die. With that he summons up a second dead wave and fires it at the other wizard saint, just as the man says, 3, as he claps his hands together and says, I invoke Law of Fairies, Fury Ro. Outside the Fairy Tail mages, a dome of light magic envelops the top of the Phantom Guild Hall as the clouds part and a large beam of light descends from the sky, causing an explosion of light. Kana asks, What the heck is that? As a bright light envelops the area, destroying the ghosts. That is one of the 3 legendary spells of Fairy Tail, Fairy Law. Makarov responds as he moves forward. Since this spell eliminates everyone the caster believes to be their enemy, the war is now over. Everyone looks on in disbelief at this revelation. As the light fades back inside, we see Jose standing with his arms in front of his face to protect his eyes from the light, but when he lowers them, we see that he has changed. His hair has turned white, and his face appears more aged. The man collapses to the ground, unable to feel his magic power, while Minato inhales calmly and says, Go back home, Jose, and wait for the council's word. Your title of Wizard Saint will undoubtedly be revoked after this, but I believe I know exactly who they will appoint to take your place. It's over. He feels someone behind him at that moment, turns his whole arm to lightning, and hands them back. The big man is flung head over heels into the only wall that remains, and it is revealed to be Arya. Minato shakes his head and says, The same trick won't work on me twice. He then turns and flashes away. Appearing in front of the guild members who are all staring at him expectantly, he smiles warmly and declares, Fairy Tail wins. As Lysana kisses the recently awakened Natsu, Mira and Naruto embrace passionately, Kushina hugs Minato, and Makarov smiles proudly at his former children. Everyone cheers. The blonde celestial mage smiles joyfully at the news that her guild mates won and that she doesn't have to return to her father if she doesn't want to. That evening, the guild hosts a massive party in the basement to celebrate Phantom Lord's defeat and eventual demise. Obito then uses his authority of the gods to bring Lucy back and inform her of the battle's outcome. But while everyone else is having a good time, Minato, Kushina, Naruto, Mira, and Makarov sit quietly and watch, knowing that the next few days will be difficult because they will have to rebuild the guild, explain to the council what happened between them and Phantom, deal with the possibility of Fairy Tail gaining another Wizard Saint, and deal with the fact that Laxus will be returning soon, which brings with it a host of other problems. However, they all concur that no matter what occurs, they will deal with it as a family because, at the end of the day, that is what Fairy Tail is. The guild war between Phantom Lord and Fairy Tail ended a few days ago, and a lot has happened since then. First and foremost, Lucy thanked the Dreyar family and her fellow guild members for their willingness to protect her, even at the expense of the hall. Minato simply laughed and told her that it wasn't a problem because it's a father's responsibility to protect all of his children, while Naruto stated that it's the responsibility of an older brother to ensure the safety and happiness of his younger siblings. Lucy left the guild the day after the war ended in order to go and confront her father, Jude Heartfilia, but she was surprised to see Naruto and Mira on the train who were planning to do the same thing themselves. The 3 of them went to the enormous Heartfilia estate, which has its own village exclusively for the staff and their families. The mansion staff was delighted to see Lucy again. The buxom blonde was then informed that her father wanted to meet with her in his study and asked that she change into a dress that resembled her late mother's typical outfit. Naruto told her to stay in what she was wearing, and the 2 of them went to the man's office to talk. When Jude saw the other blonde, he was both disturbed and irritated. He thanked Naruto for bringing his daughter back to him and told him to leave them alone so they could talk. But the God Slayer refused and went ahead and laid into the man. Jude was told by Naruto that he was the son of the master of Fairy Tail, that Lucy was a member of the guild and thus his younger sister, and that he would be damned before he let a bastard like him. Jude used the girl for his own purposes. The man then asked his daughter if she felt the same way, and she replied that she did. He said it was regrettable, to which Naruto replied that the guild was destroyed due to his selfishness and those he regarded as brothers and sisters had been hurt. The God Slayer warned the man that if he ever threatened his guild and his family again, he, Naruto, would come back and destroy him personally. Jude then threw them out and told Lucy that if she wanted to be a mage, she could live as one, meaning from job to job. The three then went back to the guild. The guild members have started to rebuild the guild in the midst of all of this, but not in the same way as before. No, Minato decided to rebuild it bigger and better than ever before, so he dug out some old building plans that his father had made years ago but never got around to implementing and told his children where to start. The building has been going well so far, with everyone helping out, and they won't run out of wood to build with anytime soon thanks to Lackey's woodmake, Yudo Maiku. Today, however, Minato and Naruto Drayar are in Era, the Magic Council's headquarters, because the council has summoned them there to discuss the guild war and Jose's defeat. The two men stand in the middle of the main council room, waiting for the second in command, Org, to speak before the 10 council members finally turn to face them. You two have been summoned before the council, Minato and Naruto Drayar, to respond to our inquiries about the guild war between your fairy tale and the Phantom Lord Guild of Jose Porla. While Minato wears what the other blonde refers to as his wizard saint face, Naruto frowns at the old man's words. Answer our questions honestly, and you shall not be punished too severely. Honorable Council, let's eliminate all the questions, shall we? Minato says, nodding to Org. You're curious about how and why the war began. The guild war began when Phantom Lord sent Gajeel Red Fox to storm our guild hall. That wasn't too serious, so even though some of my members were demanding retribution, I felt it was appropriate to reject them and inform them that it didn't matter because nobody was hurt. The blue-haired Seagrain simply looks thoughtful, and the council members all nod in agreement, believing it to be a wise choice. Minato goes on, but the following night, Gajeel came back and attacked 3 of my children. After severely beating them, he painted the phantom symbol on their stomachs and pinned them to a tree. At that point, I made the decision to launch a counterattack, and we attacked Phantom's guild hall. Everything was going smoothly until I went to confront Jose. The coward sent a thought projection of himself, and Arya of the Element 4 ambushed me, draining me of more than half my strength before I managed to escape. Naruto nods his head in agreement as the council continues to listen in awe. After I appeared next to my son here, I told him to order the retreat, which thankfully he did. My son took over as the guild's leader while I was away after I was brought to my mother for medical care and told that I would recover, but it would take some time. I'll let him talk from here. He then nods to the younger blonde who continues his father's conversation. After that, everyone was unwinding. Gigi informed us that Porla Teme sent the water and earth users of the Element 4 after Lucy Heartfilia, one of our guildmates. It appears that Phantom, the asshole, was employed by her father Jude to essentially abduct her. Org says, watch your tongue, Naruto Drayar, after the older council members glare at the 21-year-old for his language. Now after learning that, we all heard a loud banging sound and the ground shook. We rushed out to see what it was and found it was a mobile guild hall, and it belonged to Phantom, the blonde says, nodding before taking a breath and continuing. Jose then tried to use a Jupiter cannon to destroy Magnolia and us after I told him where he could shove Lucy. Many members of the council are shocked by this news because the Jupiter cannon was declared illegal some time ago. Naruto goes on. I led a team into the Phantom Guild to eliminate the Element 4, Gajeel, and Jose, with me taking on Jose. Then, Jose said he would fire again, so I ordered Natsu Dragneel to destroy the cannon. In turn, each of my guildmates faced the appropriate person and vanquished every Phantom S-class mage. As he goes on, Ursa took on Arya after he tried to do to me what he did to my father, leaving me free to head straight to Jose, he says, impressing all of the council members. He changed into his wizard saint attire when I got to him, and we started fighting. His use of darkness magic was strong, but it was insignificant in comparison to my Storm God Slayer magic. A storm is too strong for any man in any case. I defeated him and was about to give him a chance to surrender when he unexpectedly attacked me with a dead wave. At this point, Tu-san arrived and assumed control. His son is replaced by the older blonde. I told Naruto to return to the other guild members while I finished Jose, Wizard Saint, Master to Wizard Saint, Master. The older blonde said I gave him 3 seconds to surrender in accordance with the rules my guild's first master established, but he was incooperative, so I applied fairy law. He lost his magic and was completely vanquished as a result. Org clears his throat and says, based upon your telling of events as well as the evidence that we collected ourselves, we have no choice but to declare Fairy Tail not culpable in the guild war. The Magic Council considers all of this and weighs the facts and evidence gathered in their own independent investigation of the events before coming to a silent decision. The two blondes sigh with relief at this decision, but Org goes on. It is this council's decision that Phantom Lord as the guilty party will disband it. All of their mages should join other guilds or become self-sufficient in addition to being imprisoned. Jose Porla will lose his position as a wizard saint. Additionally, Fairy Tail will receive financial support from the council to rebuild your guild hall. At this point, Minato bows to the council and says, "Thank you for your assistance, Great Council." As they get ready to leave the council chamber, he gets back up to his full height and gestures for his son to follow him. However, Org stops them, saying, "Hold on for a few moments longer, Dryers." This causes the two to turn back to the council with curious looks. In light of Naruto Dreyar's defeat of Jose Porla, who was still a wizard saint despite being the second weakest, Org gestures to Naruto. Both men are shocked when the council says, "We would like to extend an offer to join the wizard saints to you. Naruto Dreyar, we have decided the perfect person to fill the man's slot as a wizard saint. Therefore we would like to extend an offer to you, Naruto Dreyar." However, Minato quickly transitions from shock to pride, feeling that his son is strong enough to be named among the 10 strongest wizards on the continent. Naruto is taken aback, but that soon turns suspicious. "What's the catch to this lil offer?" is the question that the younger blonde chooses to ask. "Will you old fogies hold me accountable?" The majority of the council members frown at what Minato says, but Seagrain, a young buxom woman named Ultir Milkovich, and Yujima, a small man with bushy eyebrows and a square mustache who used to be a member of Fairy Tail, are the only ones who don't. However, Yujima is the one who chooses to say, "No, young man, you would not be culpable to us. However, you would occasionally have to complete missions that we specifically assign, and believe me when I say that these missions are a little more difficult than your typical S-class jobs. Apart from that, you would have the respect and status that come with being a wizard saint, but you would still be free to do as you always do. In addition, given that Fairy Tail produced 4 wizard saints, it would attract more customers." After giving this some thought, Naruto shrugs his shoulder and responds, "All right, why not?" The council sighs at this, and Yujima smiles and thinks, "He's just like Maki, so self-confident and stubborn. I'll accept your offer and become a wizard saint, but I refuse to be called the weakest or second weakest member. If anything, I'm the 8th strongest member, maybe even higher." It seems to skip a generation, as Minato boy was humble and honored when he was first made a wizard saint. After 4 hours of induction into the wizard saints, Naruto receives the medallion, which he wears around his neck on a cord, and hands over one of his coats to the council so that the wizard saint's emblem can be stitched on the back of it. Naruto and Minato then leave and travel back to Magnolia via the Hiraishin. Magnolia before Fairy Tail. "Hey Two-san, can we not tell the guild just yet about me being a wizard saint?" Naruto asks his father as they emerge from the guild. The older blonde looks at his son in confusion and asks, "Why not, son?" The God Slayer looks at the older man and says, "That's exactly why. Everyone will be happy to hear about it. A big party will be thrown in your honor and you'll be center of attention. Right now, I don't want to be the center of attention. Everyone must concentrate on rebuilding the guild and accepting missions as they become available. They don't have to celebrate my achievement with a party." "I understand, Naruto," Minato says, nodding his head and holding his boy's shoulder. "We will not inform the guild." The younger blonde nods in response, saying, "Okay, we'll tell those 5, but only them, and in private, and we have to make them promise not to tell anyone else. But I say we do tell your mother, grandfather and grandmother, Urza-chan, and you really need to tell Mira-chan. Particularly Gigi and Ka-san." Minato chuckles at this, understanding how much of a fuss his father and wife would make about it, to the point where they would probably create banners announcing his wizard sainthood and hang them throughout Magnolia for everyone to see. He nods in agreement with the almost 21-year-old's request, and they enter the guild hall building. Everyone, except their significant others, is thrilled to see them as soon as they enter the building. Kushina and Mira approach and kiss their men before the redhead poses the question that everyone is thinking about. "So how did it go?" Before responding for everyone to hear, Minato simply smiles and says, "It went just fine. The Magic Council has determined that Phantom bears sole responsibility for the guild war and that we are not. They've made the decision to disband Phantom Lord, put Jose in jail, and give us money to rebuild the guild." Everyone applauds at this point and starts discussing how it benefits those Phantom assholes. Makarov then approaches his son and asks, "Have they decided on who will replace Jose among the saints?" The 4th master shakes his head in reply and responds, "No, not yet." The eldest Dreyar nods his head in agreement before continuing to use his Titan magic to assist in rebuilding the guild. They stated that they would be keeping an eye out for any aspiring mages who seem like they would fit in with the wizard saints. "Why didn't they just offer it to Naru-kun?" pouts Mira, who is still in Naruto's arms before you killed him. "Master, he really kicked Jose in the butt." The younger blonde laughs at this, kisses the top of her head, and says, "I don't think so, babe. Naru-kun could definitely be a wizard saint. I prefer the freedom that comes with being a fairy tale mage. I simply don't like being a wizard saint. I would detest being the Magic Council's jackass." When Kushina hears what he's saying, she approaches him and gives him a back of the head slap, saying, "Naru-chan, show some respect." The S-class mage looks a little hurt and rubs the back of his head, saying, "Ow, damn it, Ka-san. Do you always have to hit so frickin' hard? The Magic Council may be jerks sometimes, but they keep the peace between mages like us and normal people. Minato chuckles at the exchange between his wife and son before clapping his hands to get their attention. Well, I think that's enough mother-son bonding, he says. Geez, I was just making a point. Let's all return to what really matters. Rebuilding. After a long day of work, the three S-class mages all nod their heads simultaneously and begin working on the rebuild later that night, when most of the guild members have left, but the dryers, including Urza and Mira, are still there. Minato says, alright, since everyone is here, let's head to Ka-chan's. Makarov asks, what is so important that all of us had to stay behind just to head to Porlyuzuka-chan's? As he gets ready to use the Hiraishin to teleport them all. You'll find out when we get there, Oji-chan, is Naruto's response to this query as soon as they reappear. It's outside of the healer mage's treehouse, and a moment later, the pink-haired woman is standing on her porch, staring at the group. The old man doesn't like it, but he agrees anyway, and they all disappear in a flash of yellow. Not that I'm not always happy to see you, Kushina-chan, Naruto-chan, Minato-chan, she says, grinning at her grandson, son, and daughter-in-law, but frowning at Urza, her lover, and her grandson's girlfriend. However, may I inquire why you have invited so many people to my home? Sorry, Ka-chan. I know how much you hate humans, with certain exceptions, but Naruto has some big news to share and he wanted to tell everyone he loves at once. The 45-year-old blonde simply smiles at her in response. After sniffing this, poor Lyuzuka softens her features and says, okay, everyone is welcome to enter. However, I won't be providing food for everyone. She then leads them all inside, and they follow her past the treatment room and into her living area as poor Lyuzuka asks, well, what's your big news, Naruto-chan? They all sit down, with Kushina and Mira sitting in their men's laps. Well, this is my surprise, the youngest blonde chuckles, reaching into his shirt to reveal the Wizard Saint medallion, which he holds out for everyone to see. That's a Wizard Saint medallion. The only way to get one is to be made a member of the Saints. Makarov says with a proud expression on his face as the women all watch in awe. Are you claiming to be the newest Saints member, Naruto? When the old man turns to face his son, the 20-year-old gives a gentle nod. And you knew about this all the time? Why didn't you inform the other members of the guild about it? Minato sighs and responds, To-chan, it was at Naruto's request. The only people he wants to know are his immediate family. Knowing that his son is correct, the former master nods sorrowfully at this. He wants the guild to concentrate on rebuilding the hall instead of throwing some huge party for him and getting big-headed just because Fairy Tail now has 4 wizard saints. Urza looks at her older brother with admiration and great respect. I'm proud of you, Oni-san. I've always known you would become a wizard saint when they part ways. Mira gives him a long, passionate kiss and a tight hug. Naruto nods in gratitude, saying, I'm proud of you to Narukoi. I adore you so much, and I have no doubt that you will accomplish that medallion proud and swiftly ascend to the top spot. The God Slayer chuckles at his love's confidence in him. Thank you for that, Mira-chan. I'm proud of you, Sochi, but why can't we tell anyone? Kushina says, pouting at her son. Something like this should be applauded and cheered from the rooftops. I don't want anyone but the people in the room to know right now because it would just make everyone in the guild lose focus and get arrogant, he responds as he gets up, walks over to his parents, and gives Kushina a hug. The younger blonde pats his love to tell her to get off of him, which she does. They'll start to think that because I'm a wizard saint now that I'm virtually unbeatable and start neglecting their training, thinking that I'll always be around to keep the guild safe. The older redhead just looks down sadly, but her boy smiles warmly at her and goes on, at least with me being just an S-class mage and the 3rd strongest in the guild, well 4th if you consider Gramps, then all the youngsters have something to strive to. Everyone nods, knowing that this is probably true. Every mage in the guild who is younger than me trains diligently in the hopes of eventually catching up to me and defeating me. The guild continues to be strong as a result, and I think that's sufficient recognition and praise. Okay, I understand, Naru-chan, says the strongest woman in Fairy Tail, grinning at him. I'll not tell anyone about it. Thank you, Ka-chan, the blonde says, kissing her forehead. I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much. He turns to face his grandmother and says, well, Oba-chan, what do you think? I love you too. It's quite the accomplishment, Naruto-chan, the pink-haired healer responds. Shaking her head and grinning. Riley Wizard Saint was a little over 20 years old. You outlived your mother and father by roughly a year, and your grandfather by 25 years. Well done, grandson. After promising to keep it a family secret, everyone departs a euro. Well, except for Makarov, who and poor Lyuzuka already had dinner plans a euro. With Minato and Kushina returning home, Urza heading to Fairy Hills, and Naruto and Mira heading to their favorite restaurant for a late dinner. The young man smiles in gratitude to her, while Makarov complains about his love being so cruel to him. Mira suddenly gets excited and asks, "So we still need to discuss the date of our wedding, Naru-kun?" as the young couple looks at each other affectionately while they wait for their food to arrive in the restaurant. "I am aware that each time I bring it up, you discuss money, timing, and other things. However, I believe the money issue is moot now that you're a saint. That brings us to the time problem. I am aware that the later months of the year are hectic because of the Fantasia parade, your birthday in October, and the S-class exams in December." His love answers, "Yeah, the guild is always busy," and the blonde nods in agreement. "Then you need to consider all of the S-class jobs I consistently accept. You also need to consider the schedules of everyone else. A good time simply never comes. Thank you." At this moment the waiter arrives and sets their food down in front of them. Naruto has ordered a big bowl of tempura udon, while Mira has a plate of chicken Alfredo. The white-haired woman looks at the blonde and says, "November the 15th this year. We'll get married at that time." At this point, Naruto chokes on his noodles, coughs, and tries to clear his throat with a glass of wine. Mira laughs at how adorable he is, and after he has stopped coughing, he asks, "Why November 15th? "Because it falls between the Fantasia parade and the S-class exams, which are in December," she responds with a sly smile. The blonde sighs and says, "All right, fine. This year, on November 15th, we will tie the knot inside Cardia Cathedral. However, you must choose who will be your maid of honor, my dear Demonheim Lysana, Biska, Urza Imouto, or Kana." The S-class woman gives him a bright smile for agreeing to the date, but she pouts sweetly when he remarks that he should choose a maid of honor. "How about you?" She asks who will serve as your best man. Mira-Jane swallows her pasta in shock as Naruto responds, "It's a toss-up between San or Obito." Naruto smirks and swallows his food. "So you only have two candidates? Why not add Kakashi, your godfather, or even Elfman? I love your little brother, sweetheart, but he's too loud and boisterous and would constantly be screaming about being men to everyone," the blonde says, shaking his head as he starts to list reasons why the people mentioned are bad ideas regarding Gildart's Kyofu. "He is currently on a 100-year mission and we don't know when he will return. Additionally, Kakashi is too much of a pervert for my taste. After all, he reads Jiraiya Gamma's erotic novels all the time. You didn't seem to have a problem with those books when we were reenacting a scene from one a few nights ago, Narukoi," she says with a seductive smile. The blonde blushes a little and says, "I did that for you. It was you who expressed interest in role-playing that evening. That so-called smut has given me many ideas that I've used on you, and never once heard you complain," she says, giving him a seductive look. "I swear I don't understand how you and Urza Imouto can stand to read that smut. The books have excellent storylines and character development, and it's not all smut." When dinner is finished, Naruto pays for it, and the two leave hand in hand, though halfway there Mira switches to holding tightly to his arm with her head leaning against his shoulder. When they finally arrive at their home, a two-story house painted in blues and yellows, with 4 bedrooms, €3 of which are guest rooms in case any of their siblings come over to spend the night. The blonde god slayer shakes his head and she simply giggles at his dislike of perverted stuff, which is funny considering he usually walks around their home in either boxers or nothing at all. Their room, the master bedroom, has a king-sized bed, a large closet that is primarily filled with Myra's clothes and shoes, and an attached bathroom. Naruto unlocks the door and the two enter the house, only to discover Urza, Elfman, Lysana, and Natsu sitting in their living room. The blonde god slayer gets a tick mark over his right eye as Mira laughs, prompting the blonde to ask, "What the hell are all of you doing in our house?" "Natsu wants to fight you again, and Elfni had something to say to you," Lysana replies, giggling. When Natsu jumps at Naruto and says, "Fight me," he lights his fist on fire and he sighs. "Not tonight, Natsu, and not in my house," the blonde says, grabbing the pink-haired dragon slayer by the throat and gently slamming him to the floor to avoid a dent. He turns to face the teenager. "You still have a long way to go before you can defeat me, child." He then turns to Elfman, who gets up and rubs the back of his head before saying, I just wanted to thank you, Aniki, for all the training you have given me over the past 2 years. As a result, I was able to maintain control when I executed a full takeover against Saul." After giving the bigger man a shoulder pat and grinning, the blonde responds, "You're welcome, Elfman. I'm glad I could be of some assistance to my future brother-in-law. Now, unless you're planning a freaking sleepover, please leave." When the word sleepover is mentioned, everyone's faces light up, but then Mira starts to smile while radiating a death aura. Everyone realizes what this means, so they all get up and leave, with Urza leaving last after her best friend gives her a hug and her brother kisses her forehead. The two lovers then go upstairs and spend the rest of the night making wild and passionate love. The next few days are fairly routine. Everyone arrives early to work on the guild, leaves at around 7 p.m. to eat and rest, and some even take jobs to pay for their rent and food during this time. Everyone learns that Loke is actually not human but rather a celestial spirit, and that he is also Leo the Lion. The leader of the other zodiac spirits, Lucy, discovered this and confronted the orange-haired man at a waterfall near a spa with a headstone on a cliff. She learned that his previous celestial mage, Karen Lilica, a member of the Blue Pegasus Guild and a well-known spirit mage, had banned him from the spirit realm due to his actions. However, no one was aware that she mistreated her spirits, particularly the female spirit Ares he was close to, using them as shields and amusement for her numerous boyfriends. He switched places with her after she decided to bring Ares to the human world and keep her there for 7 days a euro, something that would have killed her a euro, and demanded that she end the contracts. She refused and attempted to close his gate, but he kept it open because he was in the human world. She was unable to call forth any other spirits, so he took up residence in some nearby ruins until she gave in to his demands. After 10 days, she attempted to persuade him to return, but he refused despite being much weaker. After 3 months, he began to feel more accustomed to the human world, but he learned from Master Bob that Karen had died on a mission, that she had attempted to summon a second spirit for battle but had failed, and that she had been killed by a dark mage. She begged him to return to the spirit world, promising him that he would never mistreat her spirits again, but he saw through this lie, so she stomped on him and declared that once he was gone she would summon Ares and treat her 10 times worse. After learning that the Celestial Spirit King had banished him from the spirit world and stripped him of his position as leader of the Zodiac for allowing his summoner to die, Lucy made the decision that she would not allow Loke to die or suffer for doing the right thing because Karen was a bitch. She summoned all of her spirits at once and succeeded in calling forth the Celestial Spirit King, who was moved by the girl's passionate speech and plea and agreed to forgive Loke and restore his position. However, today finds everyone hard at work, including Naruto and Mira, and everyone is having a good time rebuilding the guild and working together like family. This is shattered by an argument between Urza and Laxus Drayar, the man who just returned to the guild after weeks away. Lucy gained Leo's golden key as a result, and she can now summon Loke whenever she wants. "What did you say, you bastard?" the redhead can be heard saying. Sitting at a table, the 23-year-old lightning mage laughs and says, "I think you heard me just fine, little girl. I claimed that this guild is made up of weaklings who led a subpar guild, such as Phantom, demolish the guild hall without resistance." Urza starts to shake with anger and yells, "Laxus!" The cause of this weakness can be directly attributed to Gigi and Minato Oji. But before she can strike him, the blonde is knocked off his table, slides across the floor, and stops 10 feet away. "You dare to lay your hands on me, little cousin?" Laxus wipes his face, spits on the ground, and gets up to confront his angry little cousin as everyone watching the argument turns to see who delivered the blow. "Am I the guild's strongest mage?" He begins to spark with yellow lightning. However, Naruto begins to spark with black lighting as he walks towards the older man. "Yes, Laxus, I dare. If a man calls my allies weak, I dare to strike him. I'm willing to strike any man who disparages my father cousin. I dare to finally shut your fucking mouth." Many people fall to their knees as the two lightning users' magical energy starts to circulate the area. But before they can move to engage in combat, Minato shows up, unleashing his magical power and bringing them both to their knees while declaring, "Enough. I won't let you two fight like a couple of rabid dogs here and ruin everything we've already done to fix the guild." He releases his magical power, and the two younger blondes get back up, glaring at one another. "I'm disappointed in both of you, Naruto. You constantly chastise the younger ones for losing their tempers, and Laxus, you're older and should know better." With a sneer, Laxus says, "Whatever, I'm taking another 3 S-class jobs. I won't be back for a while." Before turning to leave, he gives Naruto a parting shot, saying, "I'll deal with you when I get back, God Slayer." Naruto clicks his tongue in response, saying, "Yeah, that's right, run away with your tail between your legs like you always do, Laxus." Laxus disappears in a flash of lightning, leaving a frowning Minato to stand there with his head down and feeling extremely depressed. "Why don't you do everyone a favor and quit the guild and go join another?" he asks, turning around and returning to his previous task. When Loke, from the celestial spirit world, shows up later that day while everyone is taking a break from work, he hands Lucy a bunch of tickets to the Akane resort that he had won some time ago and had kind of forgotten about. Lucy thanks him and gives one to each of her team members, Gray, Urza, and Natsu, as well as an extra to Lysana. However, Urza suggests that we give Oni-sama and Mira-chan 2 of these tickets. The blonde approaches her and gives her a shoulder pat after hearing this. It's okay, little sister, you guys take those tickets and have fun, she says. They deserve to get away together. In addition, the proprietors of Akane Resort granted me a standing reservation at any time after I completed an excellent job for them. The younger mages are shocked to hear this, but Mira approaches and gives him a backhand slap. You've had long-standing reservations about Akane and never told me? At the look in his fiancé's eyes he flinches slightly and responds, yes. She puts her hands on her hips and looks him down, saying, we're going to Akane Resort with them, and you and I are going to enjoy some alone time on the beach, but only because we've always been busy with other things and it slipped my mind. Got it? He can only nod in response to the fire in her eyes and say, yes, Mira-chan. She smiles, gives him a cheek kiss, and leaves with Urza, Lucy, and Lisanna to go buy new bathing suits. The younger Dreyar is approached by Minato and Makarov, who both laugh as the older blonde remarks, you never stood a chance, son. You see, this is why when you have something like standing reservations to Akane Resort, you either keep it to yourself until a really special time, or you tell your significant other immediately. Makarov adds, it's a mistake that we men have been making since the dawn of civilization, my boy. Naruto shakes his head and turns to face his father and grandfather. You know that after we get back, Mira-chan will be telling Ka-san and Ba-chan about it, and they'll want to visit Akane Resort as well. Naruto nod. The two men turn pale as the God Slayer continues, but hey, don't worry about the guild in your absences, I'll take good care of it and all the members. He laughs as he leaves, grabbing Gray and Natsu along the way to drag them off to go shopping for new swim trunks. None of them realize that this leisurely visit to Akane Resort will change them all, especially Urza, and that the blonde God Slayer's wizard saint status would be made public so quickly. The following day, the Akane Resort, the Fury Coast. 7 a.m. Things went pretty smoothly after he took the boys to buy new swim trunks and paid for them out of his own pocket. When he got home that evening, he found his sister, his lover, and Lucy in his living room with several bags. They then pushed him into his recliner and showed him swimsuits, with Urza blushing in embarrassment the entire time. After that was finished and he had given his opinions on which suit fit each young woman the best, they all thanked him in different ways. Lucy bowed her head in respect, Urza gave him a sisterly hug, and Mira made out with him long enough that the other two girls ended up showing themselves. Needless to say, there were more passionate noises for the neighbors to complain about that evening. They all met at the train station this morning, and aside from the fact that Urza brought way too much luggage as usual, they boarded without any problems and were given a private compartment. During the train ride, Natsu, as usual, became ill, but Lisanna helped him feel better by letting him rest his head in her lap. Naruto couldn't resist taking a pot shot at the pink-haired dragon slayer, claiming that if he becomes weak from simple transportation, he will never be able to defeat the S-class mages of the guild. Now, we find the group dismissing from the train at the Akane station, and as Naruto and Gray unload all their luggage, Natsu and the girls gaze in wonder at the resort. Yeah, it's an impressive sight, isn't it? The blonde smirks as she hears their awe and gasps. Lucy turns and asks, why is it so large, Naruto-san? I admit the first time I saw it, all I could do was whistle at how big it is. Mira approaches and puts her arms around his left arm, pressing it into her cleavage. It's as large as it is because it's more than just a hotel on the beach, it's also a casino, a fun park, and so much more. There's no end to the things you can find and do in Akane, the new wizard saint says with a smile that makes her blush a little. As the manager states, the hero of Akane and his lady love deserve only the best. Everyone is thrilled about this, but soon after, they gather their belongings and go inside to check in. Naruto and Mira are given the hotel's best suite, while the other rooms are split up, with Lisanna and Natsu sharing one, Urza and Lucy sharing another, and Gray alone in the third, which the black-haired ice mage doesn't mind at all. Hotel Akane Resort, the royal suite. The first thing that comes to mind when the God Slayer and Takeover Mage enter their room is, wow. The room is so large that it occupies the majority of the hotel's top floor and has several rooms, including an in-suite kitchen, 3 bedrooms, including the master bedroom, a recreation room, and even an office and meeting room. Mira lets out a very girlish squeal and rushes towards the master bedroom, throwing the doors open and discovering a super king-sized bed. She kicks off her heels and jumps onto the golden sheets, flopping onto her stomach and face, enjoying the bed's softness. Naruto can only laugh at his fiancé's reaction as he picks up both of their bags and enters the master bedroom at a more leisurely pace, places them down near the walk-in closet, sits down on a chair, removes his sandals, and then walks over and lands on his back next to her. The white-haired woman, sensing his weight on the bed beside her, lifts her head from the sheets, smiles, and then leans in to give him a gentle kiss that ends after just 10 seconds. She then turns onto her right side and rests her head on his chest, saying, "This is a dream. Naru-kun, I never thought I'd be on vacation with my significant other in the royal suite at the Akane Resort Hotel. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the best fiancé copyright in the world. You made this happen, and you always spoil me and treat me like a queen." "There's no need to thank me, Mira-chan," the blonde replies, grinning down at her and kissing the top of her head. "You won't need to thank me for anything I do for you as long as we are alive, because I do it out of love. You are the most amazing woman in the world, so this vacation is long overdue and you deserve the best. What if we break this bed in and head downstairs to the beach with the others in a few hours? Fortunately, the entire floor thereon is clear aside from them, or else other guests would be complaining about their loudness." She smirks sultrily at this point, climbs on top of him, straddling his waist, and then grabs the hem of her shirt, pulls it off, and throws it to the ground before leaning down and kissing him once more. Beach Akane, 10:01 a.m. Everyone gathered in front of the hotel a short while ago, and now they are all on the beach in their new swimsuits. Urza is wearing an all-black two-piece bikini, with the top barely covering her enormous D-cup breasts and the bottoms highlighting her plump rear. Lucy is wearing a white two-piece bikini, slightly smaller than Urza's, with stars over the right breast and left hip, showcasing her rather toned body for being a celestial mage. Lysana is wearing a purple two-piece with frills over her high C cups, and her older sister is wearing a red two-piece bikini with orange flower patterns all over it, as she poses sensually for Naruto. For the boys, Natsu is wearing dark orange swimming trunks that fall just below his knees, with red flames around the bottom of the legs. He is not wearing a shirt and wears a scarf around his waist like a sash. Gray is wearing ice blue swimming trunks that are the same length as Natsu's, but they are white around the bottom of his legs, and he is normally shirtless. Naruto is wearing red swimming trunks, but his front is covered in storms, and the phrase, "sexy storm," is displayed on his butt. After setting down towels for everyone to lie on or sit on, Natsu and Gray quarrel over who can swim the furthest and fastest before heading to the water. Naruto, who is sitting on Myra's left side and putting lotion on her body, laughs and says, "Those two can't get along for more than a few minutes even on a vacation. Urza Imoto and Lysana-chan, could you two go watch the two idiots and make sure they don't ruin anything?" Lysana sighs at this, saying, "Yeah, I think I should go and try to keep Natsu-kun from getting too excited." Urza nods in agreement, saying, "I agree, I'll go and make sure that they don't do anything to bad Oni-san. You come along to Lucy." The blonde, who had been lounging on her back enjoying the sun, abruptly sits up and asks, "What? Why must I accompany you?" The red-haired S-class wizard looks at her and responds, "Because you're a part of the team, plus you aren't afraid to knock either of them over the head when they're stupid, just like me." The blonde hangs her head at this and stands up, saying, "Fine, let's go before they blow something up." After that, the three girls head down to the beach where Natsu and Gray are now engaged in a sand castle building competition. Naruto keeps rubbing lotion all over her butt, making her sigh as he works out the kinks from their earlier activities. "There you go, Mira-chan, all lotioned up in the back," he says after finishing, kissing her cheek. The white-haired beauty smirks as she turns on her side and gets up on her elbows, grabbing him and pulling him down, moving so that he is below her, and kissing him. When she stops kissing him, he is lying on his back. "Actually, Naru-kun, I can handle my front myself, but since you were nice enough to do my back, the least I can do is to return the favor, so turn over and let's get started." The God Slayer can only smile amiably and comply, so he turns over onto his stomach and lies there while Mira treats him the same way he just treated her. Natsu asks, "When are we going to eat?" as the others return after she is done. "I'm going hungry." "Natsu, you're always hungry," Naruto says, giving him a deadpan expression. The Dragon Slayer becomes so enraged by Gray's remark, "Never know, it might be a major improvement to his looks, a piggish body to go with his piggish face," that he lights his hands on fire. "You keep stuffing yourself like you do at the guild and you're going to become fat." Gray covers his hands in coldness as a result. "You heard me, fire pig." They are about to fight when they are both struck over the head, causing their bodies to crash into the sand and leave holes in their shapes. "How many times do I have to tell you two idiots to get along?" Naruto says, standing over the body-shaped holes. "I swear to Ishval that I will put you two through my extremely special training program for a month if you do anything to ruin this vacation." After he says this, the two come up out of their body holes rubbing their heads and with looks of fear on their faces as they say in unison, "Aye sir. We'll act appropriately. Please don't torment us." While Lucy freaks out, Mira, Urza, and Lysana just laugh at this, saying, "They're acting like happy. Hello. What is the program for super special training? Oni-san's super special training program is akin to torture, Urza says, pausing his laughter to give the blonde girl a serious look. He requires you to perform a great deal of physical training while strapping heavy objects to your body. The blonde man turns to them and smiles, saying, "Oh come now Imoto, don't scare the poor girl." She shudders at the end of her statement, recalling some of the punishments she herself has had to endure. Then when the physical training is done, he lets you rest for 5 minutes before making you work on your magic, and if you don't do it to his specifications then he punishes you. The penalties in my training program aren't too harsh. Not that bad. The redhead scoffs. Your training schedule is more rigorous than Ka-san's, and she requires you to wear gravity runes at all times. With a shake of his head, Naruto says, "I don't make anyone wear gravity runes, just large boulders on their backs, or attached to their wrists and ankles." Everyone breaks out in perspiration and thinks, sadist. He dismisses it with a wave, saying, "Besides, my foster father put me through way tougher training and look how strong I am today, both physically and magically." When he sees their disbelieving looks, he coughs into his hand and says, "Well, enough of that. How about we play some volleyball?" Everyone agrees right away, and they start a game with 2 teams of 3. Naruto, Natsu, and Gray are on one team, and Urza, Lisana, and Lucy are on the other, with Mira serving as the referee. 2 hours after the game concludes with the boy winning, they all return inside to clean up and eat a late lunch before spending some time in the casino. On their way back to the hotel, Naruto observes that Urza appears preoccupied and decides to find out why. He turns to Mira and says, "Mira-chan, you go on to the room ahead of me. I need to talk to my sister," the white-haired S-class mage says, glancing at her friend and nodding as she gives the blonde a kiss. "Okay, I'll get the shower ready and be waiting for you in the bathroom." He nods, and she leaves while he approaches the redhead. She feels a hand on her shoulder as she gets ready to head to the elevators to her room, and when she turns to see it's her brother, she smiles at him and sees the worry in his eyes as he asks, "What's going on, Urza Imoto? Why are you so preoccupied that it seems like you're not even here?" "There's nothing wrong, Naruto Oni," she says, grinning and shaking her head. The God Slayer isn't at all duped, saying, "Don't lie to me. Urza, I know you too well to be fooled by that kind of excuse. I'm not Gray or Natsu, I'm just thinking about how long it's been since I last took a vacation, that's all. Tell me what's wrong now." "All right," sighs the red-haired S-class mage, "I'm recalling my most recent visit to the region. The day Jelal blasted me out of the Tower of Heaven. The island where the tower is located is only a few miles off the coast from here, and I'm afraid that something is going to happen, and I'm going to find out that the tower wasn't destroyed and someone or something is going to come and drag me back to that hellhole." She starts to tremble as she speaks, and at the end, she starts to cry. Naruto hugs her and runs his hands through her hair. "Don't you worry about a thing, little sister," he says, attempting to console his adopted sister as much as he can. "I swear to you now that I will not let you return to Akane by yourself. Regardless of what occurs there, I promise that I will crush anyone who even touches a hair on your head. Anyone who tries to take you will have to go through me. I'll go to the tower myself and use these 2 fists to destroy the abomination. If I can't stop you from going there by yourself, I promise never to let you go through what you went through as a child as your older brother. I swear to you." Urza wipes her eyes and gives him a lovely smile while sniffling a little. "Thank you, Naru Oni," she says. "Take a look at me acting like a young child. I'm Titania from Fairy Tail, an S-class mage named Urza Scarlet Drayar. Remember the biggest tenet of Fairy Tail, sis. You do what I can't do, and I'll do what you can't. I'm stronger than this," Naruto says with a gentle smile. "We can achieve anything if we work together." She nods and moves away from him, saying, "With that in mind, I will always do what you cannot and stand as the pillar of strength from which you can draw. Thank you again." He laughs and nods before they part ways. "Now I'm going to go and get cleaned up. You should too, you stink of sweat." He hears the shower running in the bathroom as soon as Naruto gets to his room, and he knows that Mira did exactly what she said she would do, so he goes there and undresses en route, throwing off his sandals first, then his tank top, and finally his shorts. By the time he gets to the bathroom, he's as nude as his fiancée copyrightee. As he enters the shower with her, envelops her in his arms, and starts to really steam things up. A casino. A few hours later, the 3 of them are waiting for the girls down in the hotel lobby. Gray is wearing a nice pair of black slacks, black dress shoes, and a long-sleeved red button-up shirt with a blue tie. Natsu is wearing a darker version of his usual outfit, with the exception that the coat is buttoned shut. After their morning of fun in the sun and lunch in their rooms, they all decided to hit the casino. Naturally, the girls took advantage of the opportunity to get dolled up and suggested that the boys do the same. Forced Gray and Natsu to dress nicely. Naruto is dressed in black dress pants and gray shoes, but his shirt is black and his tie is red, and he has a Drayar fur-collared coat on top of it. All of this makes him look like a mafia boss. The elevator dings and the girls emerge, and they are stunning. Urza is the first to leave, her hair tied up in a bun on top of her head, secured with pins, and she is wearing a low-cut light purple dress with red roses all over it, which ties behind her neck and accentuates the sides of her breasts. Her outfit is completed with black heels and white gloves that reach her biceps. After Lucy, there is Lysana, who is wearing a baby blue dress with frills around the bottom, a plunging neckline to display her cleavage, and silver earrings in the shape of the fairy tale symbol, a necklace with a dragon pendant, and blue heels. Lucy is wearing a gorgeous dark purple dress with a matching collar tied around her neck, a similar colored hair tie in the right side of her hair maintaining her usual side ponytail, and a slit in the dress that runs down her leg, allowing her to keep her keys attached to a gold ring around her right leg. Then there is Mira, the most attractive of them all. In Naruto's opinion, her hair is styled in a French braid down her back, with her typical front upwards ponytail, and she wears a stunning black dress with a red lightning motif running up the sides that reveals a lot of her cleavage. Her engagement ring is on her left ring finger, a gold bracelet with the initials MS, LS, and ES on her right wrist, completing her outfit with a pair of 2-inch black heels. Mira asks, "So what do you think, boys?" as the four pose to flaunt their attire as they emerge from the elevator. Although the only person whose opinion matters to her is her blonde god slayers. Naruto walks up to her and wraps an arm around her waist, pulling her to him and kisses her shortly. Then he gives his opinion, "You look absolutely gorgeous, Mira-chan." The blonde celestial mage blushes cutely at his words but gives him a small, quiet thank you. Then he turns to Lysana and says, "You look amazing as well, Lysana-chan." The younger white-haired girl smiles kindly at him and approaches her boyfriend. "I love that dress especially," he says to his sister. "You look beautiful, Imoto." The red-headed girl beams brightly at her brother's compliment. Following some complaining from Gray and Natsu, the group eventually enters the casino, where they divide up to gamble. Urza and Lucy go to the roulette table, Natsu and Lysana go to a huge claw game, Naruto and Mira go to the craps tables, and Gray goes to a blackjack table. As the evening wears on, everyone except for Natsu and Lysana moves around after winning 1 million jewels at the craps table. Naruto and Mira go to the roulette tables, while Urza and Lucy go to a blackjack table after winning and losing a few thousand jewels, respectively. After breaking even, Gray made the decision to go to the bar. As soon as he sits down, a familiar blue-haired former Phantom Lord Waterwoman approaches him. She is wearing a blue dress, a huge golden fairy tale necklace, and no fur hat. She sits next to him and starts flirting with him, which completely goes over the idiot's head, but their enjoyable time is about to come to an abrupt end. After winning another 2 million jewels, Naruto and Mira are enjoying themselves cleaning up at the roulette table when the blonde's magical senses suddenly go off and he tenses up. Mira is concerned when she sees her fiancé go from smiling and having fun to looking serious and tense, and she asks, "What's wrong, Naru-kun?" "I sense 4 magical signatures with intent to harm," the wizard saint responds, glancing down at her. "Cash us out while I go and check on the others," she says, nodding, confident that his intuition is always correct. He then turns and heads out onto the casino floor to find their allies. When the gangster wannabe attacks Natsu, he transforms his arm into a gun-like weapon, fires a beam of magical energy at the Fire Dragon Slayer, and takes him out. Meanwhile, all of the members of Team Natsu are just learning what Naruto already knows. The man who attacks Natsu is made of blocks and speaks like a gangster from a bad movie. He wears a blue suit, a white undershirt, and a red tie. He has a white scarf around his neck, a fedora on his head, stubble on his block-like face, and sunglasses. Gray and Juvia, who are seated at the bar, are suddenly engulfed in darkness, and the Ice Mage's senses scream at him as a large man appears behind them. He grabs Juvia and avoids the first blow that destroys the bar, and when he looks at their attacker, he realizes how big he is. The man is about 7 feet tall, with a massive, muscular torso, arms, and hands that all seem even larger than his thin legs. His left eye is covered in a simple, dark eye patch that is supported by an incredibly thin rope that extends diagonally on his cheek. His enormous jaw is hidden by an armored metal plate with lines of studs on its upper edges, 2 side protrusions that jut upward, and a set of teeth-like ornaments that together resemble a skeletal jaw. The top of his head is covered with a light cloth that is tied on the back, with 2 long wrappings hanging over his neck and another hanging on the right side of his face, giving the headgear a striking resemblance to a turban. His attire is peculiar because it only covers the majority of his muscular upper body, which is exposed by a large, light cloth that passes over his left shoulder and down below his waist, where it is tied with a light sash and a single, dark sleeve on his left arm that has two light stripes running vertically down it, from the shoulder to the cuff. The cloth that crosses his chest diagonally has a series of dark pyramids adorning its edges, and it bears several dark, larger motifs in the center, which are eerily reminiscent of double-edged axes. He also sports a pair of extremely loose dark pants that almost reach his ankles, giving the impression that his thin legs are larger. The man raises his hand and says, "Wait, I wish not to fight." As Gray looks up at him and gets ready to strike, "I just struck you to get your attention. My name is Simon Mikazuchi, and we have something in common. We both want to protect Urza Scarlet." This draws the attention of the other two mages, and instead of fighting, the three start chatting. Meanwhile, Urza and Lucy are dealing with the final two members of this four-person team. Urza is stunned by Lucy and another young man, a brown-skinned man with spiky blonde hair, green eyes, and a small tattoo of a snake on his chin. He is dressed like a blackjack dealer, wearing black dress slacks, a white button-up shirt, and a black vest over it. Miliana is the woman who created Lucy, who is restrained by a rubbery rope that gets tighter the more she struggles and has two red triangles on each cheek to represent whiskers, as well as brow hair done up on top to resemble cat ears, and a pink dress with frills on the bottom. The blonde-haired teen looks at the redhead and says, "It's time to return Urza Nay." The young man is named Sho, and he and Miliana are old friends of the redhead's from her time in the Tower of Heaven. Sho possesses magic and has tricked many of the casino's patrons into playing cards. The redhead is still shocked that her old friends are capable of using magic. "Sho, Miliana, I thought you'd died. Time to return to the tower and fulfill your promise to us. How are you doing here? How do you possess magic? This doesn't make sense." Wally and Simon then show up, shocking her even more by telling her that Jelal discovered magic in them and taught them how to use it. Now he wants her back. They all fall to their knees as Sho tries to put her in one of his cards so they can leave, but as they turn to face the source, they see Naruto approaching them slowly and angrily, saying, "You thought you could waltz in here and just take my Imoto and not encounter any kind of opposition? You believed that you could manipulate her into going back to the hellhole that has plagued her for years by playing on her fears and her regret for leaving you all behind?" His magical power grows and explodes out of him as he asks this final question, shattering the floor beneath him. When he raises his hand with the wind swirling around it and gestures to Lucy, the rope that encircles her is cut into hundreds of tiny pieces, releasing the girl. He turns back to the four enemy mages and says, "You were mistaken. Here's what will happen. You will return to the Tower of Heaven with a message for your master, but nothing else. Inform Jelal that he is being pursued by Naruto Uzumaki Drayar. Inform your master that I will kick him in the ass and demolish his tower of lies and suffering." Black lightning is blazing all over his body as he speaks. Urza puts her hand on his arm, causing him to control his magic and look at her bewildered while she gives him a dejected look. "It's okay, Naruto Oni," she says. The blonde looks at her angrily and shakes his head, saying, "I can't allow that. I'll go with them. It's time to end this 8-year nightmare once and for all. Little sister, keep in mind that I know you better than anyone else. I understand that you want to resolve the situation independently without involving your fairy tale allies. But you overlook the fact that Fairy Tail is a family and that we deal with all issues together. We'll go together at Euro. You, me, Mira-chan, Natsu, Gray, Lysana, and Lucia Euro, if you want to visit the tower." A fist to the face stops Simon's attempt to kidnap Urza, sending him back to his fellow tower mages. Naruto glares directly at the group, but especially at the big man, and they can tell that he can see them even in the darkness. The blonde growls at them, "Leave," as the red-haired S-class mage looks into his eyes for a few moments before the area turns dark and hands reach out to grab her. Right now, I'm feeling merciful, but that won't last long." Inform Jelal that Urza won't be arriving by herself when he sees her soon. "Very well," the big man says, nodding his head as he stands back up. "We'll find out how close Fairy Tail is to one another. Come Wally, Sho, Miliana." With that, the darkness enshrouds the four and they vanish from sight. A moment later the light returns to the room, and Mira walks up with Gray, Juvia, Lysana, and Natsu. Urza turns to her older brother with a slight glare. "Why did you do that? Why didn't you simply allow me to accompany them? I have to deal with Jelal and the tower. You had no authority to decide on that for the whole group." The God Slayer approaches her from the opposite direction and says, "I told you earlier, didn't I? I won't let you go back there by yourself. I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe and end the 8-year nightmare that has tormented you. I promised you that I would demolish that tower with my bare hands, and I plan to do just that. You don't have to do things alone. You have support, because if I didn't attend to my little sister's nightmares, I wouldn't be a very good big brother, would I?" Her eyes enlarge at this, but she soon starts crying and turns to give him a backward embrace while sobbing into his coat. Juvia is perplexed, and Mira simply smiles as she approaches her fiancé copyright and best friend and lightly touches the redhead's shoulder to get her attention. Naru-kun is right, Urza-chan, says Lucy, Natsu, Lisanna, and Gray, who all look up to the strong Urza as an older sister and see her as an example of how to be a strong female mage. We are all here and prepared to fight alongside you to put an end to your suffering, so you don't have to go it alone. Let's assist you and end the towers and Jalal's ghost. In response, Natsu covers his fist in flames and punches his other hand, saying, I'm all fired up. The redhead turns to her best friend, lets go of her brother to embrace the white-haired woman instead, and smiles, all right Mira-chan, I'll accept your help. She then turns to face the others and says, I'll also accept your help as well, if you'll give it. Even though I'm not much use in a fight past my spirits, I'm up for a little adventure. Lucy nods her head and smiles lightly, I gotta pay that block guy back. Gray, now shirtless, runs his hand through his hair and says, well, since Naruto Aniki is leading us, I'm ready for anything. The blue-haired woman shakes her head and replies, Juvia will help as well. Urza then turns to face Juvia and says, Juvia-san, this has nothing to do with you, so you're free to do as you please. The majority of them give her a strange look, but Naruto simply laughs and starts to leave, saying, all right, then, let's move out everyone. Our next stop is to get a boat and then we're heading straight for the Tower of Heaven. He is covered in white light as he walks, and when it goes away, his outfit changes to his typical one, but his furred coat is now white and bears the wizard saint's symbol on the back. Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Lisanna, and Juvia are shocked to see the emblem of the 10 most powerful wizards in all of Fury emblazoned on the God Slayer's back, but Mira and Urza smile and realize that he's going to the tower not just as an S-class mage of fairy tale, but as a member of the 10 wizard saints, meaning he's going to give it his all. The group follows him, with Gray has his shirt back on, Urza has his coat open, and Juvia are still in their dresses. Doc Akane the wizard saint gives orders to Natsu, Gray, Juvia, and Lucy to get the sails unfurled and the anchor up so they can set sail. As they sail, the blonde God Slayer stands at the bow of the ship looking forward, his eyes shining with barely contained rage at the audacity of Jelal Fernandez, sending people he knows mean the world to Urza to make her feel regret and guilt and force her to return to the tower for some ridiculous scheme of his. He pulls out his communications lacrima and channels his magical energy into it, establishing the connection, but as he thinks these thoughts, he realizes that he should tell his father about what's happening so that his going all out doesn't get him hauled in by the Magic Council. A moment later, his mother's smiling face appears on the crystal. Hey Sochi, how's the vacation going? Are you and Mira-chan already having grandchildren? No, Ka-chan, we haven't started having children yet and won't until after we're married. Naruto moans in response. The vacation was going great until something went wrong. Could you get to Sand for me? I need to discuss it with him. His father and grandfather appear a few moments later, both of them giving him serious looks. The redhead pouts at his first sentence, becomes anxious at the second, and nods her head as he watches her go off the screen. What's up, Naruto? The older blonde asks in his master voice. You're wearing your wizard saint coat, but why? The younger blonde scowls as he begins to explain the situation, from the confrontations in the casino, to their current course for the Tower of Heaven. As he speaks, he can see on his end both his elders beginning to exude their magical powers as rage mars their faces. When he finishes, Minato replies, I see. I give you permission to destroy that tower and the bastard in order to prevent you from being punished for using all of your strength. I will inform the council of the situation. The God Slayer thanks him and nods, but his father's next statement, and Naruto, makes him even more enraged. Prevent Urza from experiencing additional mental and emotional suffering. He smirks and says, no problem. To-san, protect your sister with everything you have. Son, we're counting on you. Imoto will only remember that bastard's name as a faraway memory once I'm done with him. The fourth master of fairy tale and the former third master both grin a little at this, and the connection is severed. As for the tower, the island it's on won't even exist once I've finished demolishing it. The blonde puts the lacrima back in his coat and returns to standing at the ship's bow with his arms crossed in front of his chest. If someone were to look at him right now, they would say he looks a lot like his cousin Laxus, which he would immediately deny. Eventually, as they travel, the tower appears, towering into the sky, looking like a twisted hodgepodge of different metals with occasionally jutting sides. It appears to be very chaotic and asymmetrical, and even from this distance, Naruto can sense the evil energy emanates from it. Everyone gets ready for battle as they approach, but Naruto turns to face his fellow blonde mage and yells, Lucy. With a bewildered expression on her face, the younger blonde approaches him and says, come here, please, what can I do for you, Naruto-san? He responds, I've noticed over the last few months that you rely too heavily on your spirits and don't know any other magic," with a serious expression that somewhat frightens her because he usually smiles. "That can be risky in fairy tale and make you a burden to your allies because, once your spirits are gone, you'll always need to be saved." Tears begin to well up in the corner of her eyes as she looks down in sorrow at his words, hurt that her fellow blonde mage thinks she is worthless. She is startled, though, when she feels his finger beneath her chin and he lifts her head so she can face him directly. "However, there are ways for you to fix this. He continues to enhance your celestial spirit magic. It is best to learn 1 or 2 additional magics. I'll help you find another magic to use when this is all over and we return to the guild, so you won't have to worry about being weaker than everyone else and you can feel more confident as a mage." "Thank you, Naruto-san," she says with a beaming smile after noticing the sincerity in his eyes. The God Slayer gives her a slight reprimand, shakes his head, and gives her a quick bonk on top of hers. "Since you are a member of the fairy tale family, please call me Naruto ni, or Naruto Aniki, just like everyone else." She rubs her head in mock hurt but perks up even more and smiles even more brightly at him and responds, "Yes, Naruto ni." He smiles and nods in agreement before sending her back to get ready to land on the island. "I'm coming for you, Fernandez. Sit up there in your shitty tower and enjoy your time as a king, because by tomorrow you'll be nothing more than a bloody smear at the end of my fist. I'm going to show you what happens when you screw around with the lives of the people I care about, and you will discover firsthand the power of a raging storm." Naruto can only look up near the top of the tower with a sneer on his handsome face as he thinks to himself,